welcome to another episode of Around the 32. Tonight we have a special guest, our Commissioner Bone. You guys know him as Hooked on Horns with Texas. Tonight we're going to be going through the awards watch list, position by position, freshmen, defensive players, and the coaching awards that we are watching may be expanded. They may be left as they are. Uh, Tune in, find out. Bone, how's it going, man?
It's going good, dude. I'm hyped to be here, man. I'm telling you, I've been hyped about this award show since like June when we first started talking about it, dude. I'm hyped to get this going.
It's been a minute for sure. It's one of
Yeah,
the things that I've been looking forward to the most for sure.
without a doubt, man. And I think what we're gonna find out tonight, like we were just talking about before we started recording, like there's a lot of people on here that I had no idea the seasons they were putting up, and I think it's gonna be cool to highlight some of these dudes. Like there's a guy from Houston I can't wait to highlight. You know what I mean? And it's a guy that doesn't get a lot of game of the week type stuff, and that's the beauty of this thing, man.
Yeah, there's so many players that they really go kind of unrecognized.
Yeah.
They get overlooked a little bit because everybody just kind of focuses on Heisman, right? Um,
Mm.
but man, there's some guys out there that are putting together some really good seasons, and I think this is special. I think it's amazing. It's a way to give the guys who deserve the recognition that they deserve. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's great, man.
Dude, I absolutely agree. And I think the point you just made about the Heisman, like that's the one thing with the last two college football cycles, dude, is it's essentially the top four running backs each year. And so you kind of get tunnel vision and being able to go through some of these quarterbacks, freshmen, receivers, defenders, like it's what we've needed, man. I think it's gonna be dope. I think people are gonna love it too, because you're gonna get a highlight from every conference, every school across the country. Like it's gonna be fun, man. It's fun looking at these graphics too that we're working off of already. So it's gonna be a hell of a show.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we get into it too much, a lot of people, and it was my opinion whenever I first started kind of diving into this that Heisman is mostly running backs just because it's so easy to run the football, right? And it's so
Mm.
easy to exploit and it's so easy to stat pad. But whenever you start looking through some of the stats for the quarterbacks, I've noticed that there's a lot of quarterbacks in our league that throw a lot of interceptions. I thought that
Yep.
I was bad with it. But man, there's very few guys who take care of the football. There's very few quarterbacks with less than double digits, single digits in interceptions. So that's a massive reason why we don't ever get quarterbacks in Heisman races. Um, so this is nice, man, to be able to acknowledge some of those guys who are really good at throwing the football, and the game just kind of punishes you from time to time. And there's some times that you'll throw a
Yeah.
pick and you're like, come on, man. That's just not happening.
Dude, that we've all been there, especially on 27. We're there multiple times a game, dude.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'll say this, man. I think you hit the nail on the head right there, and it's going to come up in the quarterback conversation. I That was my main takeaway too, going through passing yards, because you sort attempts, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns. Then you peak that interceptions, and we've got four guys over 20 interceptions. I think we've got almost 10 over the 15 mark. It's how this game's playing this year, man. And I think you're right. I think it's preventing some of those QBs from getting any of the award shine. I guess it's wild. I did not expect that. It made me feel a little bit better too, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have a guy like Gunnar Stockton, Eddie in
Yeah,
Georgia.
yeah,
He's throwing massive amounts of interceptions to the point that he just said, "Hey, my identity's going to be I'm going to run the football." That's
yep,
that's what it
yep.
is. And whenever we're going to get into this, our leading passer as far as passing yards goes also has 20 plus, if I remember right, 20 plus
Yeah,
interceptions. So
yes,
it's
sir.
man, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But I'm ready to dive in, man. You wanna knock out freshmen first? I think that's kind of the easiest way to ease into this. The most chill award that we can kind of hit first.
Absolutely, dude. I think it's the best way to start. And honestly, this is one of the ones I'm most excited about. So I'm ready when you are, dude.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I got the graphic pulled
Yes,
up,
sir.
the same one that I sent you earlier
Yep.
today. So let's go through it, man. We're gonna break these guys down, one by one, and I think there's somebody at every position that kind of stands out, right? And I think something that I really like about the way that we have this set up is that it's not just offense, right? We have defensive guys who can be the freshman player of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, dude. And honestly, right now, how it is, Ed, like I think you're looking at like a Weatherspoon from UNC, Young from Oklahoma State, or even like a Trey Bell from Florida State. The seasons that they're putting up are, from a production standpoint, right there with any quarterback, running back, pass catcher, which that's the beauty of this, man. Like I had no idea we had a freshman safety that was running around with 71 tackles, a touchdown, four deflections. Like some of these defensive guys absolutely need to be highlighted.
It's ridiculous, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that has to be the starter at UNC in order to put up those
Yeah.
numbers, And look, UNC has had a little bit of turnover in the season. They've gone through two different users, um, so some of those stats could be inflated. So that could be a little bit of an asterisk. Do you really
Mhm.
acknowledge that as a user player because most of the season maybe wasn't really user? But whenever you start getting into defense as it is, how many users are actually playing defense in computer games anyway, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's almost like you don't want to take that away just because of the situation. You know, the fact remains is that that is a user team, and that is a guy that is a freshman on that team that is absolutely shining.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. And I think that's honestly that's the tough part about the defense is exactly what you said is how often are they playing in big user games where they're having to be the Will, be the safety, be the Sam. And I think too, honestly, dude, that brings me to the guy that I kind of wanted to highlight was Hayden Lowe from Miami. I
Mm,
think that goes into right what you were saying. I know that Austin tends to play a lot of his CPU games all the way through, if I remember right, from when he was streaming a lot last season. He's played in a lot of user games this season. And so having a freshman essentially starting at edge or at least being in those sub packages coming in a passing situation to have 34 tackles, 22 solos, 11 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, and the season's not over. I mean, that's almost what Colin Simmons is putting up.
dude, that TFL number by itself, I think, kind of elevates him to that potential top of the board. Um, from a left edge as a freshman, 11 TFLs, and look, you have Vallejo at Michigan with 9, and then you got some guys with 7 and 8 throughout, but 11 TFLs, 6.5 sacks. He also has one forced fumble, two fumble recoveries. So man, he's absolutely wrecking shop over there. Even if it is just as a sub package, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, dude, and that's the thing. It's like it's exactly that. Like if he's just doing that, we're playing 60% of the snaps. I mean, that's it's absolutely insane. I don't know, seeing some of these defensive stats, dude. Even just looking at this graphic now, a guy like a Kevin Wynn for Florida State, like that nose tackle spot, having 22 tackles and 16 of those are solos, 7 of those are TFLs. That screams just plug in the run game, an inside zone stopper. And so you can start to see these guys, they get that initial role early. And then by season 2 or 3, we're looking back on this and you're like, dude, that's why he's an All American. That freshman season, he found a role that user liked playing with him. And he ended up becoming the full time starter. And these stats are just going to blow up from there. It's really cool highlighting some of these freshmen, dude, because we're going to look back at this in a few seasons and be like, my God, like that's where Hayden Lowe was. And the other thing I'll say this too, man, you brought up a really interesting point with a guy like a UNC or even a school like an Oklahoma State. Some of these guys, they could be in the portal here in a year or two, not
Mm.
even due to the quality of the season that the user has, but solely just from an NIL perspective. Maybe these guys, their expectation raises because of some of these accolades that they get. And if a guy didn't user him all the time or didn't find him important, you could find some of these guys in the portal a year or two from now. And I think it makes tuning into stuff like this even more important. It gives you a little bit of a scouting edge too, if you do find them in the portal in a season or two.
Absolutely. And I don't know about some of the other guys here, but me personally, not playing as much defense because playing the computer on defense as Florida is a lot different than playing the computer on defense as, let's say, Ohio State, Notre Dame,
Yeah,
guys with
totally.
really good defenses. Sometimes I feel like I'm just playing the peak Tom Brady. And I mean,
Yes,
98%
man.
completion. He's just dicing me up all game long, and I could be playing somebody like FCS West or something.
Dude,
It's
absolutely.
it's wild. So I don't pay as much attention to my defensive players as I do my offensive players. So if I have a guy that is really really shining and he comes up in the portal, is he's one of those guys that's possibly leaning towards leaving, and I don't know what his production is, I might let him
Yeah.
slip. And I
Yes,
don't even
dude.
recognize it. So some of these guys, like you said, UNC, Oklahoma State, um, maybe that happens there, and they're not aware. He's just a freshman. We
Yeah.
can get somebody to replace that. And you don't realize the production that he had. And another one that I want to touch on that you mentioned at the beginning of this graphic here is Trey Bell, 3 interceptions,
Yeah.
uh, as a freshman in a what appears to be a sub package as strong safety. I don't know if maybe Sticks' safety went down at some point and he had to fill in, or if he's just playing maybe the nickel. Uh, but 3 interceptions is massive, man. So then you start weighing how much more weight does an interception carry over a sack or a TFL? Because essentially that gives you the ball back. So does one
Absolutely.
interception equal 3 sacks? I mean
Dude,
it's an
I,
argument to be made.
I totally agree, man. I think you're bringing up one of the key points is how much do you value the TFL versus getting the damn ball back and bringing it right back to your offense and giving it to a guy like Kevin Sperry. If you can get that ball back to an explosive offense, I mean, that's as valuable as anything. And I'll say this, man, I've got Trey Bell's game log pulled up, and there's something interesting with his season. You can tell in user games, Sticks likes to use Trey Bell. And so I'd say you're spot on it. I bet it's a sub package that Sticks likes to get him in on, maybe at a sub linebacker spot. Week one against SMU, true freshman, first start against the user, 5 tackles, 3 assisted tackles, 2 solos, an interception. He had an interception in weeks 1, 3, and 4. So it was a guy Sticks spotted early, started as a 74, it looks like, and it looks like each user game, man, he just steps up and makes plays. And so I think you're bringing up a really interesting point, though, too, is how much do you value the interceptions versus the 11 TFLs, 6.5 sacks? Even a guy like Lamar Brown, 27 tackles, 24 solos, kind of goes back to that Kevin Wynn conversation of kind of just being the plug of that defense. And how valuable is that for a school at LSU versus a Florida State with the level of competition?
Mm.
So it's interesting, man, with the defensive players specifically. And I think we're going to have the same conversation with the quarterbacks is how different some of these programs are from an Oklahoma State to a UNC to an LSU to a Michigan, not even just from a quality of conference play perspective, but from positions and the way that these guys are used. Like you said, like you could really pick any one of these guys 1 through 9, make a case for them being the defensive freshman of the year. And I think you could persuade about 90% of the league if you make a strong case, just with how wide open it is on that defensive side.
Absolutely, I fully agree. Um, so let's get into it, Bone, and we're gonna go through position by position. And
Yeah.
it's only right that we start this with Kevin Sperry, right? The type of
Amen,
season
dude.
that he is having at FSU, 3,101 yards, 64 completions. For those of you who might be listening to the podcast instead of watching the video, um, 36 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions with three
Damn.
rushing touchdowns. Now, something that I don't like that the game does is the rushing yards for quarterbacks are kind of skewed because of sacks, right? So, obviously, Kevin Sperry at negative 16 rushing yards in game is not his true rushing yardage. Um, if he has 3 rushing touchdowns, right? I mean, it's got
Yeah,
to be a bigger number than that. So you start thinking about some of these guys who have big rushing yard numbers and who are taking sacks, and it's like, man, how much is that affected, because I don't think that Sticks is just running, quarterback sneaks on the 1 yard line whenever he gets down there for his three rushing touchdowns, right? Um, so man, that is absolutely huge in my opinion to start the year off. We'll start the dynasty off with a freshman quarterback because this guy's probably going to be a 4 year starter at FSU. Unless he declares
yeah,
early. I mean, man, we could be looking at a potential Heisman front runner in the next 2 years. Uh, and then you
man.
drop down the go
Yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
No, 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 dude. I was just gonna throw in there real quick. I think we're looking. We could scroll back both cycles, and we know where this guy's gonna end up, and it's in that damn Hall of Fame. If we know sticks and quarterbacks, he'll have a bust at the end of probably season 3 with how this is going.
Absolutely. You might as well start drawing it up now. I mean, this it's
Yes, man.
you could get the graphic ready, you could get the post ready. He's definitely
Absolutely.
he's definitely going to be there. If he's having this type of season as a freshman, let me pull up really quickly his overall um, so he's
Man, I
only a
got
77
yeah.
right now.
Wow. That's
And
insane. That's insane.
he is the third best overall quarterback on Florida State's roster. And
That's the most sticks fact I've ever heard in my life, brother.
it's unreal. And it almost seems like Sticks hasn't even really tried his other 2 quarterbacks. He has Ashton Daniels as a senior. That's the number one rated 79. He's got 17 passing yards. And then right under him you have Shane Willow. That's the number 2. He's also a freshman. He's a 78 overall, 43 passing yards. And then you have Kevin Sperry. That's just the entire offense for the entire year, pretty much. It's something special, man. Um, and then you drop down and you look at Bama with Keelan Russell,
Yep.
2,850 yards, 65 completions, 22 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. And this is another guy that, like we touched on earlier with UNC, that they've had multiple coaches, so you don't really
Mhm.
know how much of that is because of Voldemort and how much of that is Money Mike. Uh, you know,
His name shall not be spoken.
it shall not. No.
Oh,
Um,
hilarious, dude.
and you have 133 rushing yards there with 3 touchdowns. And doing that in the SEC against SEC competition as a freshman, I think that is also massive. Um,
Yeah,
Julian
dude.
Lewis, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say real quick on Keelan Russell, man. I think the week that Mike joined was week 6 against Eddie, or maybe that week before for that CPU Mississippi State game, and came out against Georgia and had 275 through the air, 3 passing touchdowns against Georgia. Got a big top 25 win. I know the LSU game didn't go exactly how he wanted to, and the stat line isn't super clean, but I'm telling you, man, that LSU squad is different, and he played well. And I think with Keelan Russell being a freshman, him at Duncanville was something. It was ridiculous. And so with the way EA's built his profiling game, it matches how he plays in real life. Great dual threat. The pure runner archetype, I think, is one that is super underrated in this game. I think it's right up there with the athlete dual threat archetype. And I think Keelan Russell could be one of those guys that's on that Heisman watch list in a year or two, dude, especially with that user. I think this guy's got all the potential in the world to do really whatever he wants in this league, awards wise.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple points that I want to touch on there. I think a lot of people are going to be absolutely terrified of that pure runner archetype because of how
Yeah,
atrocious it was last year. Um,
absolutely.
man, you got a pure runner at quarterback, and it felt like you just converted a running back. There was
Mhm.
horrible accuracy stats. Um, and as far as that LSU game goes, uh, I have a little bit of insider information, and Brandon might hate me for this, but Brandon went into that game with a chip on his shoulder because of the way that the first game last year went
Oh
against Money
yes,
Mike
man.
with Mississippi State. Um, So he went into that game with a little chip on his shoulder. I figured, man, we were going to see a side of Brandon in that game that we haven't seen maybe ever, and he came out and he just balled. I mean,
Dude,
that's
I'm telling you, man, that it was a hell of a performance. And I know Brandon, when he sets his mind to something like that, he's gonna give you hell out there. And he did, dude. And it was one of his first user games that he had had in some time. And yeah, you knew that was coming. I don't. I know he had a little extra motivation there, but I think whoever lined up against him that week was gonna take a loss. I'm glad it was a couple weeks after that I played him. He was able to cool down after that.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, you know, moving on, we got Julian Lewis with Colorado, which doing this in Colorado, knowing the type of team that they have and how lacking they are at some of the skill positions, it's pretty special, right? 2,950 yards, 63% completion, 26 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. There's those interceptions that we were talking about earlier, Bone. Some of these
Mhm.
guys with massive interception numbers, 183 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. What do you think about that one?
Man, I think you hit. I think that was the point I was just thinking of, Ed, was the interception number. And I think it's expected from a freshman, especially a first year guy. And what you said too, man, being at a school like Colorado, if you have that 5-star quarterback, which Juju Lewis was coming out of high school, that's definitely the guy that you want to put the weight on his shoulders, especially with the offense. And so I get like the yards per attempt number, I think is hovering around 8.5 for Juju Lewis. So you can tell he's pushing the ball down the field, 63% completion percentage. He's going for chunk plays if you watch him, which I totally get. And that interception number, though, I think if that comes down next year, you could be looking at an all Big 12 type quarterback without a doubt.
I think with Colorado, with the user that they have, the program that they're building, they were kind of on top of the recruiting leaderboards for several weeks at the beginning of the season. If you remember right, they hit recruits back to back quickly. Um, and I think Colorado could be a team to watch here in the next year or two. Especially starting a freshman quarterback. That's another one that could be a 4-year starter at Colorado. These guys might be a force, come time that Julian Lewis'
Yeah.
senior year.
I totally agree, man. You got a true freshman or a redshirt freshman sitting at quarterback. I think they got a junior at running back. His top wide receiver with 10 touchdowns, 1,000+ yards on the year as a junior. So, man, I think you're totally right, dude. I think that Colorado team next year is definitely one to look at, especially with what they're doing in recruiting. I think with where they're at in the country, they've got that nice little pocket of Colorado, Kansas, Missouri. You can dip into California if you need to. So I think they've got a really bright future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And moving along, the next quarterback, the last quarterback that we have on the freshman board, Luke Nickel with Miami, 1,383 passing yards, 64% completion, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 102 rushing yards. Austin, somebody who doesn't really make a lot of mistakes offensively,
Yeah.
in spite of how much he loves to push the ball down the field. He absolutely loves throwing verts. His slogan is bombs away. If you press him, he is
Yep.
chunking it up. I mean, and he is making you win that 1-on-1. So looking at Miami right now, I think the story here is that Darian Mensah kind of went down um, week 1, week 2, and then Luke Nickel came in and played from 2 to 7, and Austin got his guy back in week 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. So a little bit of a small sample size there. I don't know that that's grounds for freshman of the year. Being that he played 6 games, but having 18 touchdowns with 1,383 yards in only 6 games, still kind of special.
I totally agree, man. Truthfully, looking at the stats, and this is one thing I wanted to highlight when we had the Luke Nickel conversation. Darian Minsa's had 335 snaps. Nickel has had 307. And breaking down their stats, man, I don't know if it's just how Austin plays, maybe having a redshirt freshman in there that's a lower overall, it's more of an effort mindset. And like you said, he kind of dives more into that bombs away mentality, which he's been super successful with. But with almost the same number of snaps, Luke has 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Mensa's got 1,500 yards, so a little bit more yardage, but 14 touchdowns, four less than Nickel. And he's got 11 interceptions, four more than Luke. And so in a weird way, Luke has kind of been the better quarterback for Miami. And so I wonder if maybe we might see him later on this season. If Austin gets into a situation that he's just more comfortable with him, he might throw him back in there.
Yeah, that's dude. That is a very, very interesting point. I think you also have to look at maybe the games played there because
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
user games he played with Mensa, one of which being Notre Dame. Um, and he also threw 5 interceptions in one game against Duke,
Mm,
which seemed very unnecessary because he won that game 42-7.
I
So,
was going to say.
so it's
Yeah, that's a bit wild.
yeah, I don't think you had to throw those 5 interceptions there, Austin.
Hey,
But
that's the
that
definition of bombs away, dude.
man, and look, that seems like one of those games maybe that Duke was maybe pressing all game long, and
Yeah,
he had the game there, and he was just like, well, I'm just gonna chunk it up. I've got great receivers, and we're just gonna see what happens. Completely
totally.
unnecessary, but it
Dude, and
happened.
I will say, you're making a good point though, because and maybe it was one of those things, and we've all seen it playing the computer this year. They're playing sticky man coverage, they're pressing up, and he's thinking, like I've been struggling with Mensa. Let me see if I can get some sort of a rhythm going. And I've been there. I've played a couple of CPU games like that with Arch, where you go into it with the mindset, dude, I'm throwing 350, four touchdowns. I'm gonna get back on track. And it's the second quarter, you've got 87 yards and two picks, and you're thinking, oh shit, like I got to go chase. And it ends up biting you in the back and or biting you in the butt. And we've been there, but I could definitely see Austin going into that game thinking it's a get right game, and you throw a couple picks, and you're thinking, I'm getting right somehow, man. That Kobe mentality. I'm just gonna keep shooting, just keep shooting all damn game.
Yeah, shoot or shoot. And Austin's
Yeah.
definitely a shooter. Two other points that I think probably should be made in that conversation. Number one being that you have Malachi Tony, who is in the Heisman race, who's chasing two
Mm,
guys who Bone just this week got a 1 game suspension and another got a warning. So
yeah.
maybe in that instance, he felt like if my guy stands a chance, I have to try to stat pad too. So I'm just gonna throw it up to Tony. He's got 93
Mm.
speed. We're going against fucking Duke. There's nobody can stop this man. You press him, or if you're back 12
Amen, dude.
yards, I'm just chunking it up to this monster. And
Absolutely, man.
so maybe, and look, I don't know if you guys have listened to the podcast that I put out early this morning, or if you watched the video, but I kind of went on a little bit of a tirade with with that situation, and that's one of the
I love
things
it.
that I kind of hit on, right? Is that whenever you start to get the stat padding, you are ultimately influencing other guys to do the same thing in order to stand some type of chance in those races, which is something that we really don't want to see. And it also impacts guys like this, where you're throwing
Yeah,
5 interceptions in a game in an effort to try to get your guy the stats that he needs in order to continue to be competitive in that race. Which is just it's a bad look all the way around the board for everybody involved. Um, but I
for
think that's
sure.
a another conversation for another day.
Dude.
We could spend hours on that topic.
I was gonna say I'm putting my commissioner tie back on real quick, and I will say, man, real quick to address that because I do want to say something real quick. I think you just made the point on the stat padding is that it's a wave. So you have that first wave of the first guys that do it, um, and then there's a whole series of waves behind them for guys chasing them, and so you create a situation to where it starts with two guys stat padding. They lead the Heisman race, and then there's 10 more that are trying to chase those guys. And they think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. At the end of the day, my thought on the stat padding, it goes back to something we were all told when we were young, man, two wrongs don't make a right. We just got to call it out when we see it and stop it there and cut the head off the snake, if you will, and it ends there. And I think too, man, that's the beauty of this league is um, guys are aware enough that they tell us like, hey, man, I think this is going on. We might want to get something done about it. And when we reach out to the guys and tell them, like both users, super respectful, super understanding, and apologetic. And that's the beauty of this thing is we can have something like that happen, and then in the great words of Pat McAfee, we can just keep this damn thing moving.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to clarify, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that Bobby or Hurricane Hawk are the ones who started that cycle. I think that the person who started that is no longer here, who had multiple warnings, multiple game suspensions, and
Yeah,
continued to feed the same player who is still, even after what's it been, 5 weeks since the
dude,
user's been going,
5 weeks,
is
and he's still
still
up
in the
there, man.
Heisman race.
He's still there.
That is
Yes, yeah,
absurd. So whenever you start to see something like that, you see this guy putting up 300 yards and 5 touchdowns in multiple games, you're thinking, man, I have got to chase. If
yeah,
I'm going to stand
totally.
any chance of winning Heisman over this guy, I have got to chase. I've got to feed my man the rock. And I think that's a perfect way to lead into the running backs because the top of the
Definitely.
board with running backs for freshmen, we have Jonas Walton, Notre Dame, with 872 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns, 15 catches, 191 yards through the air, and 1 touchdown as a backup. Boom!
Dude, can I gotta throw a fact at your head. So I got something here ready for this. My starting running back, Raleek Brown, has 970 yards and 12 touchdowns as my
That is
starter.
that is absurd.
Yeah, dude, it's next level. And I will say one other thing, not to harp on any of the stat padding stuff, but this is one of the byproducts of just it's XP. You get so much XP for these guys, like having a full starter season. Um, that's one of the byproducts of getting your starter 250, 4 touchdowns, and then getting your backup 100. That XP is nice, man. It's really nice.
Hmm.
So Walton next year, sitting at an 83 as a true freshman, I'd say he probably started as what, at like a 77, 78 maybe. And so you've already seen maybe even in 79 or 80. I don't know if a 5 or 6 overall jump is realistic, but even a 3 or 4 over the course of the season, he'll have maybe a dev trait upgrade. And so he'll get rewarded absolutely for this. And I'll say this too, not to take anything away from Bobby for any of the stat padding stuff at all, because at the end of the day, dude, Walton, looking at his game log, he truly just gets in there. Every time he touches the damn ball, it's 9 a pop with the platinum shifty. And so, from Bobby's perspective, it's like, well, what do you want me to do? Just dive and lay down? Because the kid is good, dude. Like, he's an insanely talented true freshman back, maybe the most talented true freshman back that we've seen in this league going back to maybe 25, 26.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things too, like you touched on, Bone. Whenever you're gonna get your backup in there, and he's gonna start trying to put that game away. The last thing that you're thinking in your head is this guy's got 60, 70 yards. It's already, a 35-point
Yeah,
win. I'm just going to go down. No, you want to feed the man. You want to give him a little
for
bit of
sure.
a little bit of recognition there. And unfortunately it kind of gets out of hand quickly. You get in the flow of things, you start to really feel good about the way that the game's going, and the next thing you know, you look up and you're beating, FCS West 63-3. Um,
Yes, sir.
you know,
We've all been there.
yeah, absolutely. And you don't even realize it because the
Yeah,
game is just going so well. It's going so smooth, and um, you know, you just we kind of need to be a little more conscious of that. And something else that I think is very, very interesting with Notre Dame's roster, just like FSU with the quarterbacks, Walton is actually the third highest rated fourth highest rated running back on Notre Dame's roster.
oh wow.
But
I did
he
not
is
know
the
that, man.
fastest.
Mm.
He has the highest speed with 94 speed. So, yeah, you definitely want to feed him the rock. I mean,
Feed that
that's
man.
dude. Speed is absolutely everything in this game. So, I'm very curious to see if he is actually able to overtake Mobley as the starter next season with Notre Dame because of that speed alone. And look, Bone, with the update coming tomorrow, I'm also curious to see how much speed is going to cost now.
Yes.
Does
Yep.
it
Totally agree.
remain unachievable at 20, or do they drop
Right.
that back down to something like 8 or 10 like it was last year?
Honestly, man, I think you're making the point of the night right there because from stuff I've read and stuff I've seen, I think it could drop. And I think even if it drops down to 18, 16, based off of the wording of that tuning update, it definitely seems like they're trying to like shrink the range in which those physical upgrades cost. So instead of it being 2 to 20, we might see that be 5 to 15. And so if you lower
Mm.
that quickness cost down to 15, man, like we saw how valuable that was last year. If you can get a guy up to 99 speed, overall is out the window. Especially if you can do that on one of these east to west playmakers. You get a platinum shifty, you get 99. The one thing I think that EA could really do, and I think they mentioned it in the tuning update, and I say this having a running back with platinum shifty, with 95 plus speed, winning a Heisman last year with Morton, a guy this exact build. I think if they tone down that speed boost, so when guys come out of those breaks and that shifty activates and they just burst through the hole, I think that's one of those situations. If they lower that threshold, it'll help. But dude, if they lower the cost of quickness, I don't know how you can prevent stuff like that because it's you're just gonna have a team full of 99 speed guys. That's a huge point right now, man. Maybe the thing I'm most curious about in regard to this update.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you noticed in that the body of that update, they said to tune in later on for updates to that speed boost. So does that end
Mhm.
up getting nerfed? And if so, how hard? And I know that in the
Yeah,
beginning of the game, one of the reasons that they made those physical attributes like speed and strength so expensive, number one, is to prevent things like that. Guys that are just building teams based on speed and strength and overlooking, route running and catching and awareness, and things of that nature because speed kills and strength kills. Um, and also I think a big part of that had to do with the microtransactions that they tried to squeeze in there at the beginning of the season. Also, if
totally.
you are setting these as a much higher affordability, then you're kind of forcing people's hands to buy the skill points in order to do it. But since you took that out of the game, do you now lower that to make it a little bit more attainable? And do you even want to for leagues like this where, like you said, you're going to end up having teams that they're going to have 99 speed across the board?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, man, I think you're making, like I said before, the point of the night. I think you can, if you get a team and you're an 88 overall team, but your top three receivers are 99 speed, you've got a platinum shifty halfback with 99 speed. By God, it doesn't matter. Like you can go beat anybody, and that is one thing, and that I've thought about in regard to some of the skill point costs. It would be cool if you could adjust that on a league to league basis. Like if you, as a commissioner group, you could set that within the league settings. Like, hey, we don't want quickness lowered. We'd rather quickness, almost like an XP slider, but just like the XP cost setting. If you could set that as 20 as the commissioner, so you're like,
Mm.
hey, I would rather the league speed threshold sits lower than what the default is. I think that's something that would be really cool if they added. But like you said, with microtransactions and them trying to sneak that in, it kind of becomes an economics type thing, and it's like it's tough. I hope that stays away because then it could open up the door for some of those other things, and I think it would be really cool if they would let leagues set that on a league by league basis rather than just this is the system, you know?
I've never considered that, and I think that is a extremely great point. Um, that would be absolutely amazing. I don't think EA will ever do that, but
No,
I
they
mean,
won't,
it
dude.
seems like a little bit too much work for them. But then again, I thought all the changes that they made from 26 to 27
Yeah,
was
yeah,
too many changes, right? I never
totally.
expected to have all of the different coaching adjustments and the macros and all of that stuff. Which, fun fact for you and for everybody else that's listening, if you remember right, how my game was kind of broken, for a couple
Yeah.
weeks there that I was struggling, the EA could not help me fix this at all. I completely got the runaround for like 2 weeks, and ultimately I found a fix in an EA form that it is an issue with macros.
Oh
So
wow.
if you have a certain amount of macros set, and I had 10 on defense, 10 on offense, and I know that some guys have 10 and 10, and then other guys only run a couple here and there. Um, but if you start to have too many macros set, it gives you a corrupted file. So the way that I had to fix that is just completely delete all of my macros, and I don't play with macros anymore.
Wow.
Um,
Are you shitting me, dude?
it's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh,
I have to make all of my adjustments at the line of scrimmage. Luckily, coaching adjustments does work now, so I'm not going in the game having to make those adjustments at the start of the game every single game.
nice.
But if I want to play aggressive, if I want to shade under, if I want to shade over the top, if I want to shift my line, if I have to disguise my coverage, I had my macros set where I came out every single coverage showing cover three, and I know that's something that you
Yeah.
kind of struggled with whenever we played.
Yeah, man.
You said my disguises were really kind of giving you fits. I had a couple
Totally.
defensive disguises where I was baiting high and baiting low. I'd come out with a press look and then drop everybody back, or I'd come out in a cushion look and then play aggressive. Um, Man, I loved the macros that I had, and unfortunately, I cannot use them because it corrupts my file. Um,
Oh, dude, that makes me
so,
sick. That
dude,
makes me sick.
it is absolutely horrible. Uh, it's terrible. I
Dude.
hate that it happened that way. But I'd rather be able to play the games than to be able to,
Yeah,
you know, use something that's probably gonna cost me in the end anyway. So
totally.
for
Totally, man.
anybody, if you ever experience that where you're getting desync after desync after desync, no matter what game mode you're trying to play, delete your macros.
Get him out of there, man. Soon.
Get them out. Yeah, it sucks, but that's the world we live in with EA. I guess they put a feature in that does not really work.
Dude, and
um,
I'll say this. That's typical EA.
yeah, yeah. For as long as we can remember, right? We've
Yep,
been playing these games since we were walking around in diapers, and nothing's really
that's a
changed.
fact. No, dude. No.
So, Bone, we're 40 minutes in, and we're still we're still on freshmen. So
I was just
let's
thinking that, man.
let's kind
I
of
was
get through
just
some
thinking
of
that.
these, man. We're gonna rattle off
Absolutely.
a couple of them really quick. Running backs, we got Savion Hitter with Michigan, 795, 9 rushing touchdowns, 16 catches, 260 and two. AK Deer with Alabama coming in right below him at 745, 7 touchdowns, 24 catches, 150, 0 touchdowns through the air. Tavion Swint with UCF, 553, 8, 24 catches, 285, 3 touchdowns through the air. Sky Priestley at Cal with 543, 6 rushing touchdowns, 17 catches, 88 yards through the air, and 1 touchdown. And then Zay Wilbon in Miami with 178, 4 touchdowns, 6 catches, 58 yards. Um, I think if you're going to talk about freshmen so far, Bone, we're pretty much looking at Kevin Sperry, Jonas Walton, maybe Savion Hitter. Um, and I think some of these other guys kind of drop out. If you're going to talk about narrowing down to a top four, I know that we said that we might want to start off with a top 10 to begin. And if so, then you probably include maybe AJ Deer in that. That gives you
Hmm.
four right now without talking about pass catchers and defense. Um, and you can maybe make the argument for, man, honestly, I'd put Julian Lewis over Keelan Russell because of the touchdown numbers. Um, and he's got 1,000 more passing yards. I know that Keelan Russell done it against SEC competition, um, but something about 4 more touchdowns and 1,000 more yards in the same amount of games just kind of screams better player to me.
I think so too, man. And I think you're spot on. I think if we were to narrow this down to a top four, I think it's a clear cut top three with Sperry, Walton, and then Hitter out of Michigan. If you want to throw a fourth in there, call me crazy, man. I think it's between Hayden Lowe and then Ian Premier and Mark Bowman. Last thing I wanted to highlight on the freshman deal was that tight end battle. That was actually both those guys are true freshmen this year. That was the number one and number two tight end in the country last year in last year's high school class. Two huge commits for both those programs, and it's dope to see these users using these guys, starting them from day one. Those are future All Americans, and those are real life blue chip high school prospects. So cool to see that translate into the dynasty.
Absolutely, man. And I'm trying to look in game right now. There was one of these
Yeah.
guys, if I remember right, that they were actually, yeah, Ian Primer is actually the second leading pass catcher on Notre Dame. So
Oh
he's not
wow.
only in the front runner for freshman of the year, but he is also the second leading pass catcher with the 53 catches, 675 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Number one on Notre Dame is Jordan Faison, I guess is how you say his last name.
Mhm.
45 catches, 819, and 11 touchdowns. So he's not very far off from the leading receiver. So that's massive, man. You know,
Yeah, dude. Absolutely, man. One thing I wanted to throw in with Premier too, he's got a touchdown against Miami, touchdown against Michigan, touchdown against Ohio State. So he makes big plays in big games too. He's definitely one of Bobby's go-to guys down there in the red zone.
Yeah, Bobby's always been a big tight end guy, right? I mean,
Yep.
if I remember right, he had tight ends in the Heisman Watch last year
Yeah.
with NC State. Um, but Bone, looking at this, I think that's kind of the only two pass catchers that you really talk about. You could probably make a
Yep.
case for Romero at USC. I'm sorry, with 43 catches, 649, but only 4 touchdowns. Um, but I feel like you can't really overlook defense here. If you're
Yeah.
gonna talk about top four, um, I think I think Jonas Walter is clearly head and shoulders above Savion Hitter with Michigan right now. So
Mm.
you kind of drop him out in my opinion, and then you have Sperry, Walton, and Premier, and then you kind of pick that defensive guy, right? So who would you say if we were making our top four tonight? Who would you say on defense would you give that edge to? For me personally, I'm looking at either Hayden Lowe or Trey Bell.
I can't disagree with you, man. I think at this time I'd have to go Hayden Lowe, just with the two fumble recoveries, the forced fumble, 6.5 sacks, 11 TFLs, and doing it against that ACC comp for a big school like Miami. He's playing above higher overall guys. I think I'd go Hayden Lowe, and I think you're spot on too, Ed. I think I'd have Trey Bell and then Isaiah Williams from FSU, the sub backer and Sam backer from FSU right behind him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And something else that I want to touch on really, really quickly. If you just look at the teams around this board, there's a couple teams that kind of stand out. None more than FSU, with
Mm.
four freshmen on this board, two defensive, one pass catcher, one quarterback. That is ridiculous. That kind of shows you the way that Sticks is wanting to build that team through longevity.
Yep.
He's definitely playing the long game, and it's wild because he is still winning games with freshmen
Man,
everywhere.
I'm telling you, Ed, that's what's scary about it, man. And he's sitting there right now at 12 in the top 25 going into conference championship week. So I'll say this. If you pull that 5 seed thinking you're gonna get an easy maybe a UNLV, and I know UNLV is a dog, he's been in this league a long time, definitely not an easy game, but if you think you're gonna get in the lower overall team, you could see FSU slip into that 11 spot, that last seed in the playoff, maybe that 12 seed, and you're playing sticks in your first home playoff game and with exactly what you said, 4 or 5 true freshmen that he's starting across the board. I mean, What's going down there in Tallahassee since that CPU game, man? Like it's something special. It's something special. Sticks was determined to turn it around, and I'm telling you, he has, man. That's the team to watch going into the playoff, without a doubt.
Man, and let me tell you, I played Sticks last week. I think it was late last week, and it was one of the better games that I played all season long. Just from a scheme standpoint, a skill standpoint, I felt like I was never really out of the game. I threw a late interception, I think, in the third quarter that kind of let him go up by 2 scores. If I don't throw that interception, I think it still Sticks' game, but it's a much closer game, a much more competitive game. Um, and for some reason, every single time that I play guys like you, like Sticks, like Mr. Play to Win the Game, Brandon, Austin, Bobby, Reese, it's like you guys just bring out my A game, man. It's like I play at a different level whenever I play you guys, and it
I
reminds
love
me
it,
that
dude.
I'm not absolutely atrocious.
You're not, dude.
But
Not at all,
man,
man.
I feel that way sometimes, man. I feel like the Jekyll and Hyde player that I accuse other people of being. But
There's a
man,
few in here like that, brother.
dude, there's quite a few for sure. But the point that I'm wanting to hit on this is playing that FSU team. You would never guess that it is loaded with freshmen because
Mm.
these guys play like 5 year starter grown men. I mean, absolutely great team that Sticks is building there. Um, he joked that he ran the go-go offense, and it was the first time that he ran that, and it kept me on my heels all game long. I kept trying to
Yep.
figure out what he was doing. Uh, that he's got something special there, and I thought he was supposed to be rebuilding. What is this? I
Dude, I
mean,
know. I was gonna say his version of rebuilding is leading the Freshman of the Year award and then also going and making the damn playoff. Like I'm telling you, man. And I'll say this a little bit of a not to get us too off track. But Six was the guy. He got me into these leagues years ago, man. And so like when I first started playing, like online Madden is where we started. Everything I've learned from this game is from that dude. And so it's I love watching what he does with these programs because he did a similar thing in 25 with University of Kansas. I think he won two national championships with them, and he won the season one national championship during the
mm,
rebuild. So there's something about that mentality. It allows him to play a little bit more free, I think, experiment a little bit more with his offense, find something like the go-go. I'm telling y'all, watch out. Like he's the guy to watch out for in the playoff. I think we'll hit on that in a maybe in a show here in a week or two as we go into the playoff, dude. But watch out for Florida State, man. And I'll say this to lead us into this defensive board, he's sitting there with a top five ranked defensive player of the year candidate too. So that FSU team, man, like they're playing, like they're playing now.
not only that, Bone, but I personally feel like you have to throw Kevin Sperry in the Offensive Player of the Year
Yeah,
conversation
man.
as well. And we're
Totally
gonna
agree.
touch on that in just a second. But wrapping up on Sticks as a player, somebody told me once before I had played him, um, that he does things that they have never seen another player do before, and watching him play, I would sit there and I'd watch his streams, and I'm like, I mean, he doesn't seem that special. He's just very good. He knows ball, right? He knows where guys are going to be open. He knows the scheme that he wants to run, and he knows how to pick you apart. And then you get in the game with him, and it's like, holy shit, this guy does things that nobody else does.
It's a
It's
fact, man.
it's absolutely incredible, man.
It is, dude, and I'm telling you, it's the cliche. He's two steps ahead of you, three steps ahead of you. Like you've really got to think about what he's going to be doing the next drive. If you're trying to play sticks on a play to play
You
basis,
can't.
and just after each play, nah, dude. If you're doing that
No.
and trying to look at what he ran last play, you've lost. Like
Yeah.
you've lost the game.
Yep. Yeah. You have to make those adjustments ahead of time. You have to be in his
Yeah.
head. And so much so that I know that, and I've said it a lot here. I know that it's no secret to everybody that plays me that I like to keep it contained. I like to run the ball. I like to keep a short field. So coming out the first play, the first play that I ran against him was an orbit with a quarterback draw, and I busted it
I
for
love
about
it.
45 yards, and uh, and it had him completely messed up. And I was like, dude, that's the type of game I want to run all game long against him.
I
Um,
love it, man. You
and I
find
ran that
yourself doing
play.
shit you've
Oh,
never
dude,
done.
it was absolutely amazing. I knew that I'd catch him off guard, and
Yep.
he could have beat me by 70, and I'd have been okay with it just because of that one play that I got in his head.
That's what you need, man. It's the happy moments, man. It's a silver lining.
Absolutely, man. And with that, man, let's move on to defense.
Yeah,
So we're gonna kind of run through this. Defense is very hard to judge.
for sure.
Like we kind of touched on in the beginning. Not a lot of users play defense. So it's really difficult to say, who's actually usering and how much of this is being done by the computer, but it's still on those user teams, and I still think that they deserve the recognition. Um, AI ordered these in the way that it felt like it should be ordered, and I disagree with this. I think Clev Lubin is actually number one over Troy Bowles. Even though that is some very spectacular numbers with 81 tackles, 16 TFLs, 2 sacks, 4 interceptions. That touchdown kind of gives him a little bit of an edge bone. Um, 2 deflections,
Totally.
1 forced fumble. But Clev Lubin coming in at second, from that right edge spot with 43 tackles, 20 TFLs, 12 and a half sacks, 1 deflection, and 2 forced fumbles. That's a very close 1 and 2 right there, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I think what you said initially, like the defense is, it's almost subjective. Guys can look at these stat lines and kind of interpret it however they want based off of what they prioritize or emphasize out of their stats on defense. But I think you're right, dude. I think it's a pretty clear cut 1 and 2. And at this point in the season, I hate to say it and cut some of these guys out of the conversation, I guess. But I think we're almost down to a two-man race in a way.
I think so, man. If there's anybody else that you could possibly chunk up there, to be in that same conversation, is probably where we're sitting at number three with Jonathan Hall at Utah. Um,
Yep.
because he put up some pretty insane stats as well with 95 tackles. 95 tackles by itself is unreal. Um,
That's crazy,
from a
dude.
from a user team, most of these users, their highest tackler is in the 60s. So if you get a guy that's putting up 90, I mean that's absolutely absurd. That means your offense is getting off the field and your defense is doing work. And from your anchor, your Mike, to be able to do that with 13 TFLs, 2 sacks, a pick, 5 deflections, and a fumble recovery. I don't think that it's enough to put you at 2 or 1, but it's definitely enough to push that envelope a little bit to get you in the conversation in that top three conversation. And then you have a couple guys falling in behind there. Mandrell, how do you say that? Is that Desire? With
Sear, desired
Desire,
Sear, one of the
yeah.
two, I think.
Florida State left edge, 14 TFLs, 11 sacks. I think that's huge. You have Dajon Lee Jr. with Alabama with 6 interceptions and a touchdown, 9 deflections. That's also pretty big. Francis Brewu, Notre Dame defensive tackle, 17 TFLs, 8 sacks, an interception, a touchdown, a forced fumble, and a deflection. That's another one that you know we have guys there. Jordan Ross, LSU, 15 TFLs, 10 sacks, and another defensive lineman with an interception and a touchdown and a deflection. Um, we have guys that are putting up incredible numbers on any other regular season, but but
Yes,
when
dude.
you have a 1 and 2 that looks like Troy Bowles and Clev Lubin right now, I just, man, Bone, I think it's a 2-man race for sure.
I think you're right, man. And I think Bowles right now is the guy for me. Just with the competition that Michigan's played, the performances he's had out there on the field, man, and the four picks. I think 81 tackles, 16 TFLs, two sacks, four interceptions. I mean, two pass deflections, a touchdown. Like he's making plays at any situation, all levels of the field. And with the way that Michigan team's played this year, he's got to be the guy right now for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes back to something that we touched on earlier whenever we were talking about the freshman defenders. How much more weight does one interception carry than one sack, right? So
Yeah,
if you're thinking
totally.
three sacks equal one interception, I mean, you have to give that edge to Bowles, right? Plus the touchdown.
Yeah.
He has a number in almost every single category on defense there. Uh, whereas Clev Lubin's just kind of wrecked the line of scrimmage. Bowles
Yeah.
has done it all over the field.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point. I mean, I think Bowles looking at this list, and I could be wrong. I think maybe no, I think maybe the Notre Dame D tackle is the only guy that matches him in the amount of categories he has a stat listed in. To do that at Mike, man, like that's super impressive. That's a huge point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, we can kind of touch on some of these other guys. Honestly, Bone, I don't think there's a real
No.
I don't think there's a real reason to. You know,
Dude, I think you're right. It's I did not realize that how much even doing in like the research that we did before, Bowles and Lubin, man. And I think Hall deserves to be mentioned in there, like you said. Like those three guys, like looking at the difference in those stat categories compared to some of these other guys, like I mean, I not to talk about Texas, but Colin Simmons, like he's been my best player on the field, no question on defense. And that stat line is shit compared to these guys, dude. It ain't
yeah,
even
I mean,
close, man.
look for those of you who might just be tuning in to the podcast, the difference in the
Yeah.
amount of stats that you have on the left side of the screen compared to the right side of the screen, it's absolutely absurd. Whereas if you look at Todd Bowles, he has one, two, three, four, five, six, seven categories that he has recorded a stat. And then you look at number 13 with Cal, Daniel Harris, and he only has four. You
Wow.
know, so,
That's
so
insane.
man, you talk about stuff in the stat sheet. Yeah, I agree, Bone. I kind of have to change my answer there. I think AI has it right, and Bowles is one, and Lubin's two. And I'm curious to see if that shakes up any at all with conference championships, playoff games. Because Lubin's gonna have one more game than Bowles does
Yeah.
if he wins that round one.
Very true, dude. And honestly, I think that's the fun thing about this show. I think we both came into this thinking Lubin's the guy. And by the end of it, I'm sitting here thinking, dude, I was wrong. Like, what the
Yeah,
hell? Like because
right.
I was like you, man, like 20 TFLs, 12 and a half sacks. I'm usually more of a line of scrimmage edge type guy, especially for defensive player of the year awards. Like being a Saints fan, having a guy like a Cam Jordan down there on the line of scrimmage, how valuable that is, it's huge. But shit, dude, I think we might have sold ourselves on Bowles here. I
Absolutely.
mean, this is a huge race to watch. Like it could be down to one of those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at Bowles' stats, and this has Mike linebacker, it has cornerback, it has D line. I mean, he's got
Mhm.
stats that are the equivalent of everybody really that plays defense. If you look, if you look through this list, Bone, and you start looking for DBs, the most interceptions that you're gonna find from a DB is maybe six or seven.
Yeah.
Bowles
Yeah.
has four
Wow. With 81 tackles, dude,
with
16
81.
TFLs.
Yes,
Holy
yes.
hell.
He isn't just dropping into coverage every play. He isn't just tackling in space. He's going after the ball carrier. He's going after the quarterback with two sacks. He is playing in space on defense. He is manning his zones. I mean, that's big numbers, man.
It is, man. And I'll say this to one last point on Bowles. That Indiana game, I had to go look at the stat line for that. 13 tackles, 3 TFLs, an interception. Playing USC, 6 tackles, a TFL, a sack. Oklahoma, 8 tackles, an interception. Notre Dame, 6 tackles. Definitely the worst performance for that Michigan team so far. But when he played Louisville, so this is an interesting game too. I forgot, man. Michigan and Louisville played to open the season. In that week 0 game, Bowles had 6 tackles, 2 TFLs, a sack, and I think a deflection. So that game log, that is something special to see. My God.
You know, that, dude, I forgot about that too. That game in itself could potentially decide
Yeah.
who wins that defensive player of the year. You know, something that I just noticed is he's doing all this as a 79 overall player.
Dude, I just noticed the same thing.
I
That
mean, that
79
is
senior with
wild.
no mental abilities, just physical bronze wrap up. That is insane. Wow. Wow. I'm speechless. I don't even, I
That's
think that's insane.
that is special. I mean, that's what that is.
Wow. Man, if we talk about, we might have to look at those power rankings. And Michigan, I think, is number 1. And he's in number 1 or number 2 in both the top 25 and power rankings. If he's doing that with a 79 Mike, holy shit, man.
So the last I saw, I thought Michigan was number 1 in top 25. That could have changed. Yeah, so he did drop to 2.
He did. Okay.
Yeah, he did drop to 2, and I felt like he should probably be at 2 on the power rankings, but I think he's actually sitting at 3 behind Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Let me see. No, no, you're right, dude. He's at 2. I think you're perfectly right. I think Ohio State's got to be at number 1. With that Notre Dame loss, number 2, I think is perfect for that Michigan team.
Yep.
I think not to sidebar, but these week 12 power rankings, I think are spot on. I really do.
Yeah, yeah. This might be the best power ranking that we've had all season for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and if you look at the top 12, I mean that's your playoffs, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, but yeah, man. So I think that kind of covers defense. So we're gonna roll over into
Yeah.
offense. And I don't know exactly how you want to do this. If you want to acknowledge individual positions, or if you just want to go through these positions to kind of prepare for offensive player of the year, which is kind of the way that we initially discussed it. But there were so many different skill players and quarterbacks, receivers, running backs that I had to break it up into three. Um,
Yeah, dude.
so
I
we're
honestly had, oh, go ahead, man.
no go.
I was just gonna say, dude, I think the way you've got it broken up is amazing. And like you said, like the exact idea that you just had, I think breaking or having these graphics that we can just pick 2 or 3 from each position and then maybe have like a top 8 to 10 conversation about offensive player of the year. Because dude, it's really interesting looking at some of these offensive stat lines. There's at least 3 to 5 guys per graphic that we should highlight. You know what I mean? And I think rounding that into a full offensive player of the year conversation, I think that would be sweet, dude.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into that. We're gonna start with receivers.
Yeah.
There's not very many here. Um,
Mhm.
and once again, you're looking at Florida State at number 1, right? With Deuce
Yep.
Robinson, 77 catches, 1,421 yards, 18 receiving touchdowns, which is very, very special. But for me personally, I would put Tony at number 1 as far as receivers go, just based off of that rushing production as well. Anytime that you can get 232 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns out of a receiver, I think that is very special. Um, and he also had 62 catches, 1,149 yards, and 19 receiving touchdowns. Plus, he is in the top 4 conversation for Heisman. Um, I think that's my number 1 receiver. Um, what do you think
Man,
about 1 and 2 there?
not to make this boring at all, dude, but I completely agree. I think Tony is the guy, and there's one stat I really wanted to highlight here with Tony and Deuce, and Deuce is a dog. I think down in the red zone, I think Deuce is the best skill player in the league right now. 6'6", 230, platinum 50-50. He's got silver, the natural. He's got silver, clear-headed. So down in the red zone when it matters most, I think Deuce is the best skill player overall. I think the season in full that Tony's put together is truly special, man. And I think it's exactly with what because of what you just highlighted. I think having 19 receiving touchdowns, adding four more on the ground to get to 23 total, getting up there in total yards, essentially matching Deuce's total yards. There's one stat, though, that I really wanted to highlight with Tony. On the season, he's got 542 rack yards. So run after the catch, he's at 542. He averages 8.7 rack yards per catch. So as soon as he catches that ball, you can essentially guarantee that he's going to go pick up at least another eight. And adding that extra first down after each catch, maybe on each drive, at least a few drives a game, dude, that's special for an offense. Like that's everything that you want. LSU's Eugene Wilson is up there in that top rack yards number, and I think the Oklahoma State tight end Donovan Green, who's actually having a really special season, he's leading the league in that rack yard per catch, and that's a stat that I really like to look at because I think it shows who's just the best at animations in game, just making people miss, making moves. And Tony's number two in the entire country in that with users. So I totally agree, man. I think I'd have to give it to Tony. He's a playmaker all over the field, dude.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like we discussed earlier, we know that Austin is no he doesn't shy away from throwing those bombs. So
Yeah,
62 catches, doing the type of production that he's done, um, with 15 less catches than Deuce Robinson, I think speaks volumes as well. Um, and I will say that Deuce against me put up a massive stat line. He was essentially unguardable. Had 9 catches, 163 yards. That's 18.1 a pop, Bone, with 2 touchdowns.
my God.
Unbelievable. He
Holy
single-handedly
hell.
destroyed my defense. Um, just a complete monster on offense, man. Uh, and like you said, the size in itself is so hard to stop. On top of his physicals,
Yeah.
he's got 91 speed, 94 catching, 89 acceleration, 97 excel catch, 93 catching traffic. I mean, it's you just throw the ball in his vicinity, and he's catching that thing, and the difference in the number one and number two receiver at FSU. Number one, Deuce Robinson, has 77 catches. Number two is DeCerio Rouse, has 32 catches. He is a tight end.
My gosh, dude. That's a 40 difference. There's no doubt who's number one target down in Tallahassee. That's crazy.
It
I love
gets
that.
it gets even better, Bone.
Oh God, I
Yards.
love it, dude.
There is a 1,000 yard discrepancy between one and two. There is a 15
Holy hell.
touchdown difference between one and two. if
Are you kidding
if
me?
you want to stop Florida State, you have got to stop Deuce Robinson.
Holy hell, man. So I got an interesting question, or not question. I got an interesting thing to throw into this conversation. So I just looked up. I forgot while we were talking. Florida State and Miami have played this season.
Yes,
So I've got the stat lines for each receiver, and maybe this is something that we at least keep on in the back of our minds as this season unfolds, because this race is still wide open. Both of these guys have a lot of games left to play. Tony in that game had four receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Deuce had five receptions, a buck 33, and three touchdowns. So I don't think it's a long shot. I think we could see it. It would be really, really cool if we could get another rematch of that game, Miami, Florida State, maybe at a neutral site and have those guys go at it again. Because I know Austin, Tony, after that game, he fed him the rock, making sure he got into a rhythm with him. And I think if they played again, that Tony stat line would look a little bit different.
absolutely, absolutely. And you also have to wonder how much those guys would key in on their number one. trying to take that number one away. Uh, that could be another special one though. I love that matchup. I don't know, Bone. I don't know. That's a close. That might be 1A, 1B, man. I don't think there's a 1 and 2 there anymore.
Dude, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think I'd go Tony 1A, like we said initially. Um, but man, like we got a lot of big games left to play. Like I think it's going to come down to conference title week. I think both those teams are sitting out of the conference title game, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's Louisville and someone else. I could
I
be wrong. I
I
could totally be
think
wrong.
Louisville and Miami.
Miami. So
I
we could
think
see
Miami
Tony.
does
Interesting. And then you said this with another guy earlier on, man. If he gets that extra game, that could be enough to maybe propel him in that race.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, and touching on a couple other guys here that I don't think makes it into Offensive Player of the Year conversation, but is still doing something special. Joseph Williams, Colorado, 67 catches, 1,007 yards, 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Very bright spot there in Colorado. Jeremiah Smith, doing Jeremiah Smith things, right, with 56, 9, 28, and 13. And then Cooper Perry at Cal was one that really shocked me. I did not know that Cal had a receiver that was, having this type of season with 44, 9, 27, and 10.
No, man, that's shocking. I did not expect a Cal player to be on any of these boards, but that goes to Steven and how good of a user he is, man. I think in years past, as me and you both know, he can throw the rock around, man. And so I should have expected it, but did not, just based off of the talent at Cal. But just speaks volumes to the type of user that Steven is.
Absolutely. And for reference, that is 2 catches, 1 yard, and 3 touchdowns less than one of the top receivers in the nation with Jeremiah
Damn,
Smith.
that's huge,
I
man.
mean, that's
Honestly,
that's that's
that's
absurd.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes, man. That's a guy you hope is rewarded in training results just because of that. Like, give him a dead trade upgrade, give him the extra 2 to 3 overall points. I mean, it's well deserved.
for sure, for sure. Bone, I think we move into running backs here,
Yeah.
which is kind of the heart and soul of our dynasty here, right? 1 and 2 we're no strangers to. Isaac Brown, T.J. Mobley. Um, Isaac with 2,020 yards, 28 touchdowns, 26 catches, 278, two receiving touchdowns. So if you break it up, we have that right hand column that kind of gives us all of the scrimmage yards, all of the total touchdowns. So Isaac has about 150 more scrimmage yards with one more touchdown over TJ Mobley. Uh, I think that it's gonna kind of stay the same, Bone, because Bobby may get a first round bye, so we're not gonna see TJ Mobley until the second round.
Yeah.
Whereas Louisville, Isaac Brown has the 1 game suspension for the conference championship. And
That's
then if
huge.
he makes it into the playoffs, he has that 1 game over Bobby. So we might actually see Isaac Brown pull away a little bit more, um, just because of that extra 1 game advantage.
Dude, I think you're right. Looking at that, I think you're spot on. Brown could get that extra game, and I think with Mobley sitting out, I think you're right, man. And I think the yardage difference and that extra touchdown could be enough because it's about a game's worth as well. Like the 150, or whatever it is. Yeah, about 150 scrimmage yards, the extra touchdown, adding on an extra game on top of that. Dude, I think you might be right. Let me throw one chaos scenario out there. Just looking at the conference standings, bringing up kind of what we just touched on a minute ago in that receiver conversation. Let's just, for pure chaos, let's say Miami upsets Louisville in that ACC title game. They're sitting right now at 11-1, ranked seventh in the country. Let me ask you this, Ed. Do you think that there's any chance that the game knocks a school down 5+ spots in the ranking for losing a conference title game? Because if so, you could see the Isaac Brown season end after that suspension game, which honestly would be a shame. But it's a possibility with just how good of a user Austin is. I just don't know if the game would knock him out of the playoffs for losing that.
Bone, I think in order to answer that, let me turn my. I had to plug my laptop up. It was it
No,
was
you're good,
dying.
man.
So let me turn my screen around so that I can see. But I think in order to answer that, you kind of have to look at everybody that is behind the top 12, kind of on the fringe, right?
Mm,
And
so
Cade and I were talking about the possibility of him getting in earlier today, and I don't think Ole Miss making it in is too far fetched. I think that that's a very real possibility. The league's
yeah.
advancing right now, so
Ah, dude,
I
I just saw that too. My
mean,
stomach just dropped.
hey, I got a verbal.
Let's
I got
go,
a man.
man.
I got a couple. Nice.
Oh, I got a SEC title game, man. I just found out
Uh,
playing
LSU.
Texas LSU, man. Love
Ah,
it. Brandon's gonna be
beautiful,
hyped.
beautiful.
Love
I
it.
know, I know. That's the matchup he wanted for sure.
That's
Um,
awesome.
he wants that rematch, man.
Dude, I
so
love it. It's the most fun game of the year. But dude, I think to what you're saying, man, I think that's a huge deal because like right now you've got at two lost teams, you've got Miami at 10, Indiana at 11, Florida State at 12, and then Oregon at 13. And the only team playing in a conference title game is Miami. So if Louisville wins, that would probably knock Austin out, and then you would see Florida State, Oregon, or Ole Miss probably climb up, maybe a Tennessee or UCF.
well,
It's
the updated rankings actually drops Ole Miss from 14
oh
to
no, did
16.
it really?
Yep, yep.
Did the
They
two lost teams come back up?
Yes, Tennessee and UCF now at
Wow.
14 and 15.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
Oregon winning that game over Washington, which by the way, big bounce back from Washington. That's a lot
Yeah.
better than we have seen. 42-34. Unfortunately, still didn't
Yep.
get the win, but he just needs to get his confidence back, man. I know that he's
Yep.
been kind of on a rough stretch there, but all the confidence in the world that he's going to bounce back. Um, but yes, so I think with these updated rankings, that actually does push Ole Miss out of playoff contention. So if you do have the Louisville Miami game and Louisville loses, I don't know, Bone. I don't know if you drop seven, all the way out. You're still essentially an 11-2 team. Um, I don't see the game punishing a conference championship loss that hard to put an Oregon or a Tennessee or FSU in there. Um, but
No.
if Louisville wins that game, I definitely think that Austin falls out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think looking at how this is played out, I think if you're in the top 8 or 9, so I think if from Texas Tech up to 1, if you lose the conference title game, you should be fine. Because like we've seen last year, I remember there was a time, I think twice, where me and Brandon played in the SEC title game, and he was actually in that 11 spot.
Mm,
Lost the SEC title game and still made the playoff in that 11 spot. So I know in 26 they really didn't punish people, but man, we've got 8, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all in this conference championship week. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna see exactly how this game's gonna punish people.
yeah,
I can't wait, man. This conference week is it's stacked. We're gonna have a it's gonna be a hell of a week. Hell of a
absolutely.
week.
Real quick before we move along further in the running
Yeah,
backs, big shout
totally.
out to Brandon jumping up to number 4 in the current playoff standings. If everything remains the same there, that means he gets that first round bye, which I know that he is going to be absolutely stoked about. Uh,
Yeah.
I got a couple more commits. We just advanced again past Army Navy. Bone, you're gonna love some of these.
Let's go, dude. I'm telling you, these late season gym commits, man. Like that's
Dude,
it.
I'm loving it. Let's see how everything shapes up after that advance. I don't think we really change anything after that because it was just Army Navy. Um, no, everything stays the same. Bobby falling to six is kind of a head scratcher. It's kind of wild to me, and unfortunately, if everything remains the same, we got Jacksonville State as our auto bid at 12, which is kind of disgusting. But
I, dude, I'll say this: if UNLV wins that conference championship game, he should make it in above Jacksonville State.
hopefully,
Um, So we'll get that. And I'll say this too, man. The rankings this year, I mentioned something in the main chat, and not to get too off track of the quarterback, running back conversation too, but some of the rankings this year are wild because like Michigan has had an amazing year. Bobby beat Michigan by 40.
yeah.
They have the same record, and he is 3 spots behind that team. I don't understand that. That's
You know,
something I just don't.
I think that has something to do with what we've seen in years past, right? Where
Yeah,
the game punishes those late season losses more than the early season, and
yeah.
you know, there's nothing more punishing than that loss against Ohio State. I don't remember exactly what week that was, but it
10,
was
9
eight,
maybe.
week eight.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
so that is a mid-late week, mid to late season loss that I think is just kind of sticking with him. And unfortunately, the game doesn't recognize exactly how close that game was. And the only reason that we have such a big swing with that 41-27 result was because of the last minute interception, the pick six, uh, pretty much as time expired. And that game was, if this was a true committee making this top 25, I don't think you punish Notre Dame that hard. Uh, and I think that it's something, we were talking earlier about EA and some of the things that would be beautiful if they would do. I think it would be absolutely amazing if they would allow commissioners to set their own top 25. Um,
Yep.
I think that would be incredible.
I think so too, man. I will say we'd have our heads on sticks by week 12, dude. The mob
Absolutely.
after us, man.
Absolutely. Um, Getting back to what we're here for with the awards, we're creeping on an hour and a half here, so some of these guys might get burned out listening to us talk. But if
We
y'all
could
love it as
zoom
much
through
as we
these.
do, yeah, if y'all love it as much as we do, y'all are here for it, and we love it.
Yes, absolutely.
So three, we got Nate Frazier. We're not even gonna go there, Bone. No,
No, too soon, dude.
19,
It's too soon.
1987, 23 touchdowns. With a massive game against the Gators. Kendrick Raphael with SMU though. That's one that I was kind of shocked at whenever I looked through some of these. 1,735 scrimmage yards, only 15 touchdowns kind of hurts his case, but the yardage total in itself is pretty eye popping. And then we got yet another Florida State guy, Bone.
Yeah, man.
Quintravion Wisner, Florida State with 1,652 scrimmage yards, 16 touchdowns, and then this area right here is one that I really wanted to key on, because I think that these are some of the better players in the league that unfortunately probably will not get the recognition that they deserve because of some of the stat chasing that we've had, right? Which is something that we wanted to avoid. And Bo Jackson, I think, is the name that stands out the most to me with 1,571 scrimmage yards and 23 touchdowns. Whenever you and I broadcasted that game against Notre Dame,
Oh man,
dude, I mean, Bo Jackson was running like a madman.
that shit was insane, man.
He is so fun to watch. And oddly enough, shockingly enough, right behind him, just less than 20 yards away, Keywan Lacey with Ole Miss, 1,556 uh, all-purpose yards there, with three less touchdowns coming in at 20. And then Caden Durham after that massive game against Tennessee, has 1,500 total with 16 touchdowns, and you expect to see something like that out of Brandon. You know, with as much as he loves his running backs, if you remember Jaleel Price from 26, you know he's always going to be somebody that loves his backs, and Caden Durham, you know, in itself is an outstanding running back.
It's something special, man. I played him at LSU, and that's the special thing about that LSU team is that backfield. Durham has 94 plus speed, platinum shifty. Harlem Berry behind them is the exact same way. And so I think if he didn't have Harlem Berry behind him, I think Durham would be definitely within that Heisman race. Exactly because of what you said, Ed. We've seen it before with Brandon when he has that bell cow and a guy like Jaleel Price. He's going to put up just an insane season. And I totally agree with you about Bo Jackson, man. I think what Bo Jackson's done is something special, and it's been weirdly underappreciated, overlooked. The other guy I wanted to highlight too, man. I hinted at it when we opened. Mekhi Hughes from Houston. That stat
Hmm.
line, looking at this, blew me away. I think he's at 8-3, 8-4 on the season, maybe 9-3. 1,500 total yards, 22 total touchdowns at Houston with the competition he's playing with a lower overall team. That was honestly really cool to see. Love seeing him make the list.
You know, looking at that list, I don't know why AI would put him so low. If anything, I would probably put him at 9, right above Jaden Ball, uh, because his stats are better. You know, 22. Well, actually, man, I'd probably put him right above Caden Durham. 1,566 yards with 22 touchdowns. I think the only thing that would keep him from being above Durham is the level of competition that he's had to face.
Yeah, yeah, which I think is fair too, especially at that running back position. I do think that's fair. Having to go like Jaden Ball, for example, playing Texas, playing LSU, playing schools like Georgia, Florida State, like it is different. It is tough, and I think honestly, man, that is the deciding factor in the Heisman race. TJ Mobley, that body of work against the schools that he's played, I think that's the difference for a lot of these guys, especially in the backfield.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, and I don't know if you caught that conversation in main chat earlier today, about the difference in the Big Ten and the SEC. But man, that Big Ten top four is just something. Oh man,
Dude, it's
that's
crazy.
it's
It is
dangerous.
insane. And I'll say this, man, we're going to get a cool game in the Big Ten title game. Number one, Ohio State versus number two, Penn State. It'll be cool to see this new user, DC, go up against an OG and Mr. Play to win the game. So it'll just add to the lore of the Big Ten because it's insane right now, man. Like it's absolutely insane. They're going to dominate the playoff with just numbers, and so it'll be interesting to see how many Big Ten teams make the or make the playoff, make the Final Four if it's a double Big Ten national title game. It's the year of the Big Ten, and I hate to say that. That pains me to say that, man.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if you caught the recap show last night. I'm sure you did. You watch all of them. But I'm gonna say it
Absolutely, dude.
again. Give me Ohio State by 21. I mean that's look. I haven't watched
I
much of
feel you,
Penn
dude.
State, and I don't know much about his game style, but dude, there's just some moments that you just don't bet against a guy like Mister Play to win the game. You know, and
No,
that's one of
no.
them. I'm riding with him. You know,
Yep.
he's one of those guys that on the sticks, his skill mixed with the caliber of team that he has with Ohio State. I mean, it's almost like he's the team to beat, right?
I think so, man. And I think with what he's doing on offense, like with those tight doubles looks, having some pistol looks, it's really tough to stop. And I think with this Big Ten title game too, you're looking at an overall difference of 8-10. And so with how good of a user Mr. Play to win the game is, like, man, I think the line is pretty close to what you wanted to set it at. I think three touchdowns, two touchdowns, multiple scores, that's definitely the line going into it. And I think he's definitely the guy to beat in the league right now, man. I mean, he's undefeated, rolling through that Big Ten, beating guys like Bobby. It's tough, man. And I'll say this: this could carry us into the quarterback conversation too. Julian saying, man, he was the one guy on that quarterback list that I really wanted to highlight purely for efficiency. And it's a testament to how Ohio State plays the game. It's a clean game. He's not going to make mistakes. It's a lot like sticks. He's going to force you to play a consistent game for 4 quarters, and hopefully you can win that one score game when it comes down to it.
Absolutely, and I think that rolls us right into quarterbacks. And we have Julian Sayin at number 7 right now. Um, and some of his numbers aren't as eye popping as Will Hammond, right? Dude, the job that Reese is doing over there in Texas Tech, with almost 4,000 passing yards, 41 touchdowns through the air, and 4 more on the ground. It's uh, it's hard to argue against, but the 21 interceptions. And if you look down this whole column, Bone, and for those of you who are just listening, I'm going to rattle them off real quick. You have 21, 19, 9, 17, 11, 13, 3, 15, 15, 7, 10, 5, 10, 14, 4. So what is that? Is that only 4 quarterbacks out of the top 15 that have single digit interceptions? I mean, that's
Wow,
huge. And
that's crazy.
when you talk about quarterbacks, yeah, the yards matter. The touchdowns definitely matter. Um, but we saw Jameis Winston go 5,000, 30 and 30 with Tampa Bay. And, they had a terrible team, and then Tom Brady comes the next year with essentially the same team and goes wins the Super Bowl. Because he
Yeah.
was he was that much more efficient, and he done it with lower numbers all across the board. You know, the efficiency, man. Whenever you're gonna throw half as many interceptions as you are touchdowns, that's going to make or break some of those big games. So I think Julian Sayin should absolutely be higher on this list than 7 because of the efficiency that he's had.
I totally agree, man. And I think you're hitting a key point for just offense in general on these games, especially with how we play 6 minute quarters, playing against good users, man. The more possessions that you give your opponent, you're just putting yourself in a shittier situation each time. If you can hold on to the ball, I know it's as cliche as it gets, it's as football speak as it gets, but if you can end every drive with a kick, a field goal, an extra point, a punt, a kickoff, whatever that may look like you cannot hand the ball to your opponent in this game. And like you said, Ed, like guys like Kevin Sperry, like a Julian Sayin, like a Devin Dampier, a Bryce Underwood, like those are users that play a very clean game. And those are also users that are filling up the top 12. And I don't think there's any coincidence about that at all. I think you're totally right, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. And I think you said it best. If you give the ball back to your opponent, it's hard to win here. Um, there's not a lot of guys that are going to go 3 and out, that you're going to be able to stop them, that you're going to be able to make them punt. And most of the time, if you get them in that situation that it's a 4th and short, they're just going to go for it. They're going to take that gamble. And looking at this board, you kind of touched on Devin Dampier. I think that he's too low also, Bone. 13 rushing touchdowns is massive. 932 rushing yards. That puts him at little below 3,000 total yards with 36 total touchdowns with only
Damn,
4
dude.
interceptions. I don't know what his
Damn.
fumble numbers are, but if his total turnovers for the season is only 4 with those type of numbers, put him at number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree, man. I honestly looking at that now, that's shocking because number top 5 team in the country, like you said, I mean, 3,000 total yards, 36 touchdowns, almost no turnovers. That's a guy right there. That could be a real dark horse in this quarterback of the year or even offensive player of the year race, especially if he wins a Big 12 title, goes and wins a couple playoff games. Um, that's a hell of a futures bet if you could bet on this damn thing. My God.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a case can be made for the Cal quarterback. I'm not even gonna pretend to be able to
No.
pronounce that name. Um, a case can be made there with 33 total touchdowns, 3,220 yards, but it's the 19 interceptions for me, Bone. Um, that to me it just knocks him way down that list. And whenever you start looking at the bottom of that list, you see Trinidad Chambliss also with 379 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. Arch Manning with 614 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. You add that to those passing numbers, and you have just as good of numbers as Will Hammond there at Texas Tech.
I totally agree with you, man, and I could be a little bit biased just because of how I play. You know, I like to run the ball, and Arch having those rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. I definitely have a little bit of bias, but I think these dual threat quarterback, especially in college football, both in game and in real life. When you're looking at a quarterback stat line, especially in college, I think looking at total yards, total touchdowns, total turnovers, interceptions plus fumbles, the total number of yards for the full scope of their production. I think it's key, man. And I think you just made the point there. Like that conversation shifts a little bit when you then add that in and you look at a Devin Dampier, you look at an Arch Manning, you look at a Trinidad Chambliss, like you said, in the SEC. Sure, he's only got 15 passing touchdowns, but he's got 12 rushing touchdowns, 27 total touchdowns. That's one less than what Julian Lewis has in total touchdown production. So if you add that in, you get the full scope of what these guys are doing. It definitely changes the story a little bit, man. And I think it's key in college football. I think without that, if you're not adding in total yards, I think guys like Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, Vince Young, Tim Tebow, even an old school guy like a Colin Klein out of Kansas State, it changes the narrative and it lets you view these guys a little bit more fairly, I guess, is a better way to put it.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So, with all of that being said, Bone, how do you rank this? I mean, there's so much talent in this quarterback pool, that
Man,
goes kind of unrecognized. For me
yeah,
personally, I think, like I said, man, I think Devin Dampier is number one. Um, Kevin
man,
Sperry maybe number
I
two.
think I'm with you, Ed. I think I'm with you on both of those right there.
And then maybe Julian Sayin, Arch Manning 3-4. Uh,
CJ Carr,
CJ Carr, yeah, I like CJ Carr at
yeah,
five.
yeah,
37 touchdowns is hard to beat. And then I think you drop Will Hammond to six because of those interceptions. But the passing yards and the touchdowns are hard to ignore. And then he adds another four on the ground. Um, and you start looking at the Russian numbers, and we kind of touched on that earlier. They're a little bit skewed because of the sack numbers, right? Uh, so it's really hard to say. Arch having 614 might actually be somewhere closer to 800. Trinidad Chambliss having
yeah,
379 might actually be somewhere closer to 600. We just don't know how
totally,
many
dude.
sacks these guys have taken for how much loss. Uh, like the quarterback from Cal. How do you have 11 rushing touchdowns with negative 27 rushing yards? So
Isn't that some wild shit, Ed?
yeah, I mean, it goes to show you how busted up that offensive line is
Dude,
at
yeah,
Berkeley, man.
fighting for
I
his
mean,
life.
yeah,
And
it's terrible.
let me ask you a question, because looking at this board, who is the quarterback on this list that you think their position could be the most volatile? Like who you think potentially could rise or fall the most? Because there's a name sticking out to me. Um, I'm curious though what your thought is on that.
Um, as far as season to season or game to game.
I guess almost more so game to game. Like this last stretch of conference championship, first couple rounds of the playoff leading up to this award show. Like I'll say this, man, like just looking at this board, this sounds crazy. But number 10, Rocco Becht at a Penn State. If he goes out there, has a hell of a Big Ten title game, gets that total touchdown number up to, it's at 31 right now, gets it up to like 34, 35, 36, and then carries that into a playoff. That's a guy that I could see rising. And then Sam Levitt um, at LSU, that's another guy too, man. I think what Brandon does and how he plays, those two guys both they could find themselves leading this conversation maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I just realized that the graphic has Sam Levitt at Arizona State instead of LSU. Um, but if you look at those numbers, Sam Levitt having 75% completion, is absolutely insane as well. And I just realized that Devin Dampier has 76. So,
Damn, dude.
so
That's
I mean,
crazy.
dude, unreal. But I definitely agree with you on Rocco Beck. He definitely has the biggest boomer bust potential here. Uh,
Mhm.
because then on the flip side of the coin, if you go into uh, this game against potentially Miami or Louisville, and you throw a couple interceptions, you lose the game, then you probably fall down quite a bit. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
so I don't know there, Bone.
It's tough, man.
It is this graphic in itself is probably the hardest to judge in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I think Devin Dampier is number one for me.
I think so too, man. I think you hit it spot on. I think it's Dampier, Sperry. Um, I hate to say it. I do think Arch is up there, at least in the top five, just because of the rushing stuff. Like I can't explain some of the shit he's doing, breaking tackles, man.
Dude, you can say it. I mean, look, Arch in this
Dude,
game, man. It's like whenever he gets in the open field, that man has a jetpack. And it's like it's
I can't
it's
explain.
unbelievable the speed that he has in the open field.
Bro, it is insane. I truly like I messaged, I don't know if I messaged Brandon in the game channel or if it was in a DM, but I told him I was like, if Arch Manning doesn't break two arm tackles, like it, I lose that game. Like
Yeah,
I did not I don't felt like I outplayed Brandon in any way. I got lucky that he broke a couple tackles and it blows me away, man. And I do think that's something that you're seeing a little bit more. And I've seen it throughout the league. These quarterbacks running the ball, dude. Like, even if your speed is down to like an 80 or 81, you can move a little bit. And I think you're starting to see guys playing a little bit differently. And honestly, it's kind of encouraging seeing some of these rushing numbers, like a Devin Dampier, like you said, Ed. Like, guys are out there running around a little bit and it's effective. I think the guys that are running the ball a lot, playing Cade, like I messaged Cade after we played that Ole Miss offense. It's a great system and he definitely utilizes a lot of QB run reads, which is a great way to get spread the offense out, make guys play on their heels. And so these guys that have a lot of the rushing touchdowns, I think it's a fun way to play, and I think it's effective. And I think you're seeing some guys play a little bit more like that as the season has gone on too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Cade in particular is one to keep an eye on. As the seasons progress here in this dynasty, because that is his forte.
Amen,
He
dude.
he loves scrambling. He is not shy about rolling out, taking the run whenever it's there. If he sees a little hole in that pocket, man, he is shooting. And with a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, you can just expect that. And I know that this is his last year at Ole Miss, uh, but I would be willing to bet a very large amount of money that Cade has somebody coming in behind him that's gonna have wheels, man. Um,
Absolutely, man. And I'm telling you, Ed, like he's a dog. Like that offensive system is legit. And I think that's the biggest thing too. And you could see whoever is at that Ole Miss QB spot next year, they're going to be high on this list because of that system. I mean, running the ball consistently with that QB and not getting away from it, it's effective, man. It's effective. It keeps guys on their heels and it makes them guess, which is tough this year, especially if you're trying to sit in a man or match coverage and that QB starts taking off. By God, dude, it's going to be a long day, a long day.
for sure, for sure. And he's probably a little bit upset with me because I was supposed to lab with him tonight. Um,
Oh, damn.
but I'm gonna have to give him a rain check on that one.
I
But
feel that.
but man, he's hungry. He has a motivation to get better at this game in a way that I haven't seen him have with a football game in years. And it's a scary thing to see, because I know how dangerous he can get whenever he gets a little bit obsessed with it. Um, he's definitely one to watch for sure.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love it.
So we're gonna move on really really quickly, Bone. We're gonna get through these coach awards. It's pretty much the
Yeah.
same graphics that we had the other night, but I still want to touch on them. Still want to get your input on them, and give these guys something to look at,
Mhm.
something to chase a little bit as far as coach awards go, and give them an outline of what to expect in the next couple weeks or days as as the end of the season wraps up and we get a little bit closer to the awards.
Man, I totally agree. And I think the coach conversation, it's what you said. Like, it's pretty similar to the graphics that we had in the recap show for week 11. But definitely some guys that deserve to be highlighted, man. And I love how we're doing the coach awards because it's a cool way to recognize the users behind these programs.
Absolutely. So we're gonna start off with the newcomer of the year. I do believe that these are all newcomers. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bone.
Yeah.
Um,
No, definitely, dude. Each one of these guys is brand new this season. And I know Penn State came in a little bit into the season, but maybe week 3 or 4. But all the other guys, Louisville, Utah, and Ole Miss, I believe all joined within weeks 1 or 2, if not before that. Yeah.
okay. Do you think that we have this list correct? I don't think of any other guys that are more deserving of being on this list than these four guys.
I think these four are the right four. I think with as the season's gone on, just the last couple weeks, I think I might have Penn State 1, Utah 2, Louisville 3, and then Ole Miss 4. The only reason I say that is the competition Penn State's been playing. It's not all their competition that they've played. Penn State, Louisville, and Utah. It's pretty comparable because Penn State, I think, played Oregon, played Zach, but I don't think he's played Bobby, Ajax, Mister Play to win the game. So there's a
No.
little bit of meat left on the bone there. So honestly, man, I say that to say if you wanted to have Louisville 1, Utah 1, I think there's a case for each of them, truly.
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree. Penn State has only played Oregon and Washington, and they were massive blowouts on both games. Um, Louisville, we seen in week one play Michigan, and then played Ole Miss. I would be doing Kate a disservice if I didn't clarify once again that he was playing on the PSP on a crappy condo Wi-Fi. That he was texting me the whole time saying that he was lagging, and he feels like he could have won that game on better Wi-Fi. We'll never know
I
unless they
love
play
it,
next
dude.
season.
But you
Um,
got to throw it out there, man. You got to throw it
yeah,
out
yeah,
there.
absolutely. I got to
I
roll for
love
my
it.
boy, man.
Yes,
you know
dude. Yes,
that's
I respect it.
that's man. Me and Kate have been boys since high school, and he married my
Yeah.
sister, and they live 5 houses down from me. So I gotta do it. So,
Dude, it's blood at that point. It's family, man. You
absolutely,
can't turn the back
absolutely.
on family.
Um, and then Louisville also beat SMU, and he beat Sticks. Which I would have loved to have heard, Sticks' side of that, but we couldn't get that interview lined up. Uh, and then he also beat North Carolina. So he has five user games under his belt with only one loss to Michigan. And it was an ugly loss, Bone. Um, but compared to the uh, the user wins that Penn State has, I think it holds just a little bit more weight, and we're gonna
Yeah,
see exactly how much weight in the playoffs. I think the playoffs definitely shake up this list a little bit, depending on how some of those results go. Um,
I totally agree, dude. I totally agree. The playoffs, I think, will decide how this shakes out. And I think you're right, man. I think you're right with Louisville. The quality of wins that he has is definitely in a tier of its own here.
yeah, yeah, and Utah has a couple user wins as well over Cal, Colorado, and Houston.
Mhm.
So, um, I mean, there's the one that has the least amount of user games is Penn State, but the
Yeah.
user games that he has are against two really good guys, against two really good teams, and by wide margins. So I don't know. I'm comfortable with where we're at right now, but I definitely think that this board kind of changes a little bit depending on some of the outcomes of conference championships and playoffs.
Man, I think so too. I think this is going to change a lot in the next coming weeks. And like we talked about a little bit before, man, if Penn State goes out there and upsets Ohio State, Utah upsets Texas Tech, Louisville takes down Miami, there's a lot still on the table for all three of those teams. A lot on the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. And moving on to there, from there we have the front office of the year. I think Eddie just kind of is the sitting by himself on this, which is very shocking to say because I thought for sure that
Yes, dude.
coming into this season with all of the resources that he has there at Georgia, that we were going to be seeing some just ridiculous numbers as far as NIL goes.
Totally agree.
But he's been managing his class well, man, and I'm very excited to see how he continues to build there through the portal. Because I think he's sitting at, let me see, because we did do two
Yeah.
advances, so
I've got it here, man. Eddie's sitting right now at 21 commits, 1880 NIL spent. For example, and I think this is a good comp here. Michigan is at number two with 22 commits, so only one more commit, and he spent 2,885. So for one more commit, he spent an extra thousand in NIL points,
that is
which
ridiculous.
it's crazy. And so I do have a couple of things I wanted to talk about real quick on the front office of the year award, Ed, because I think it's interesting, and I'll try and keep this brief because I could ramble about this for about a half hour here, and I know we're pushing on probably like an hour and a half, so I'll
Oh
keep it
man, we
brief.
are pushing out two.
Oh, dude, it's flying. I'll say this though, man, because I think this could be its own show. It's interesting going in and looking at the guys that are still trying to stack position talent in previous years. So, for example, the Michigan class, out of these commits, three of them are quarterbacks, two of them are halfbacks, and two of them are tight ends. So, you're going to have guys that are getting paid elite blue chip talent. NIL dollars that are going to be riding the bench. And I think you're going to see that with a lot of these top five classes. Eddie, for example, I think he's done a pretty good job of spacing out some of his positions. He doesn't have any more than one or two at a position outside of corner or linebacker, which I think works really well. LSU's the same way. Some of the schools that are still pushing like 25, 27, 24 commits, you're seeing a lot of position stacking still. And so I think that's going to come back to bite some guys later on when you get into the portal, but also when we get into season two high school recruiting, because they're going to be taking those NIL dollars and not getting reps on the field, which I think we're not going to see the really see that come to fruition and come to really have an impact until season two high school recruiting. So it's really interesting how it's played out. And I think long-winded way of saying like it kind of has Eddie separating in that number one spot for this award, breaking down even further some of those other classes. I do think though, with what Brandon's done at LSU, it's something special too because he spent essentially the same as Eddie for a few less commits, but he's got some elite commits. One of them was a quarterback, five-star quarterback. Another was a five-star receiver, and so those guys are going to have to spend a little bit more anyway. But what Eddie's done, it's unbelievable. And I'll say this, dude, it's shocking as hell because I messaged him before and I was like, Eddie, I'm worried about you, brother. he is he is not let me down, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man, and I couldn't have said it any better than myself. I think me being Florida is kind of like a blessing whenever it comes to that because I have to be so much more wise with the amount of NIL that I'm spending. I only started with I think it was like 6,000 or 7,000. So I can't stack that way. I have to look at my board and look at my roster and just go after guys that I know are going to improve my team. That they're not going to sit on my bench very long, and if they do, they're going to sit there and develop for a year or two, and then they're going to be key pieces. Um,
Yeah,
you know, but you have teams that are a little bit cash strapped that they have the NIL, so they're going to spend it. And
yeah.
you're seeing that with the Indianas and Michigans and USC's and Oklahoma. Surprisingly has dropped down a little bit, and I don't know if that's because commits have kind of decommitted because of the recent
Yeah.
skid that he was on. But at one point in time, man, I think he was a little bit over 3,000. Um, but I think you see that with some of these teams that they have the resources, so they're just gonna throw it. And you start to wonder if that's going to impact them in the long haul. Are you going to be able to retain these players? Is that going to affect you being able to upgrade facilities or hiring staff whenever you need it? And I think that that's really where the front office of the year is going to come into play, in later seasons once you start to see the way that some of these guys are really managing their NIL as a whole and not just in recruiting.
Yes, I think that's I think the biggest point of the whole dynasty as it sits right now, man, is how can you manage your NIL spent so that when we get to season two or three, you're not having to encourage transfer good players just so that you can field a roster. And it sounds crazy, man, but I feel like it's a lot like gambling. You don't want to just get into a hole now and then you're doubling down each time just to chase what you've already lost. I think these guys that are going to overextend initially, they're just going to have to take a season, not off, but take a season where you take a huge step back in spending, most likely in high school and the portal. I don't know that you'll be able to pick. I think it's just going to put guys back for a full season. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, man. I think the big bet that you can make, though, if you spend big and you win big, you're going to get that budget expanded, which is a huge deal. And so, like that, also I think plays into the conversation too with Eddie and Brandon at LSU. Is that Brandon's probably going to expand that budget a decent amount, probably by 2 to 4,000 dynasty points, with making an SEC title game, making a playoff. And so, um, him sitting back and kind of lurking with 17 commits, 1,600 spent, you could see this LSU class just go crazy in the portal after this season ends and he gets to reap some of these awards and rewards from this season, man. So LSU's sitting there at two, but when we're doing this show in about 2 weeks or a week, he could be right there at number one, pretty far and away.
I fully agree. And having Lane Kiffin there is just going to help him even more. Um, really, really briefly, while we're talking about recruits, I've been wanting to get you or anybody really their opinion because I think it's so mind blowing that North Carolina now has their first commit. He has one
Dude,
commit with 10 NIL spent. Bone, how do you think that affects him going forward into next season? I mean, you have to hit the portal hard, right?
man, I think you have to. If not, I'll be honest. So I'll be honest here. This is my I'm gonna be I'm taking the commissioner tie off and I'll give you my full honest opinion here. To me, and it's something me and Sticks have said for a while. Um, you worry about the user's longevity in the league based off of not even just recruiting activity. I think that's definitely a warning sign. But like you said, man, like you could find yourself in a portal, and even if even if it's like a targeted strategy, and you say, "I'm just going to spend money in the portal. I just want guys that are ready." If you swing and miss, dude, and you get shit out of luck in the portal, you're not going to be able to field a team. So this is an interesting conversation too, because like Tennessee and SMU, these are two guys that have ran in our league going back to college football 25. And I know both of these guys are portal guys. And so I bet they'll finish with probably 3 to 6 high school commits and they're going to go crazy in the portal. And at SMU and Tennessee, I think you can do that. A school like North Carolina, man, that's super concerning. And another school, I think Louisville. Louisville's sitting at 7 commits, all 3-star, with I would assume the plan to hit the portal heavy. Again, though, man, if you swing and miss, it's a dangerous game to play because you could be sitting there season three with one tight end thinking, "Oh shit, like what have I done?"
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that's what, portal players realize too much is that even if you're not going after your main guys in high school, you still need depth, you know, and you don't want to have bad depth, because what happens if that one tight end that you pursued that, he's a generational talent, what happens if he gets hurt in week 2? Then
Mm,
you have to go to a 56 overall tight end that you just had to throw in there in order to have a tight end. So
yeah.
it's
Yep.
like you still need to play the I need game, but you don't have to pay them though, Bone. You have
No.
plenty of 3 stars and 2 stars out there that they expect nothing.
Yeah.
So if
That's
NIL
it.
is your main concern, um, then you can still get guys that they have nobody going after them, and you can get them for absolutely free. I got quite a few of them like that on my board that these guys want nothing and nobody else is going after them, and I just need the depth, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so it's very concerning, and it goes back to conversations that we've had about Madden leagues, where
for sure.
sometimes you'll get in, season 2 or 3 of franchises, and these guys realize that they didn't prepare their rosters for the future, and
Yeah.
you kind of see the same thing, here if that trend continues with some of these teams, and you hate to see it, because then these guys, like you said, they might drop out, and then what happens for the next guy that inherits that team?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a rough situation, man.
It is, man, and I think you're totally right. It goes back to Madden and me and Sticks. We before college football, man, we ran Madden online leagues, and that was I'll say this, dude, the amount of messages I've got over the years. Hey, man, can you reset my cat penalty? Like, no,
Mm.
dude, I'm
Yeah,
not like just you signed Lamar Jackson to a $200 million contract and then traded him 2 weeks later for an $80 million cap penalty, and it would kill leagues. And so I know that when they announced NIL was going to be an addition, that was definitely a concern of mine, and definitely of Sticks too. Is like, okay, how is this going to impact longevity? And I think, man, that is a concern as guys maybe overextending and then a few years in potentially wanting the reset. I do think that's the beauty of college football, though, is with the coaching carousel, with 130, 126 plus schools in this damn thing. If you have a shitty situation, for example, and I'm just going to throw out a CPU school at Pitt, you can go take a Michigan State job or Arkansas job, and if you want to tear that place down too, you can. You know what I mean? And so
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the beauty of it is that you can always and honestly, dude, the best example that I've seen on a positive note is Zach. I don't remember if it was 26 or 25, but he started out, I believe, as South Carolina, then went to take the UCF job, and then turned the UCF job into Tennessee and ran Tennessee's program for a few seasons. And so that is the beauty of college football is if you find yourself in a sticky situation, you can just go to another school and focus on that school from that point on. So, dude, I'll say this too. I think we could have an entire damn show on recruiting. Like
yeah,
we could go for hours on this, dude, because it's so interesting this year.
yeah, absolutely. And wrapping this little segment up with one other point, if you do fall behind in that way, it just takes one season to get it back. You can go after 35 guys and essentially have your roster right back. You just have to go through the growing pains of that one season and realize that, hey, I'm not competing this year. I am
Yeah.
simply building my roster back to a competitive level, and we're gonna take whatever we get, and we're gonna roll with it. You know, um, it's very possible. I've done it in another league with Brandon and Austin that they run. I missed a whole off season. And I'm a big portal guy, so
Yeah.
I go after developmental and depth pieces with high school recruiting, and I go after my play now guys in the portal. So for me to miss a full off season, it hurts. It hurts hard. Um, and I missed a full off season, and um, I had to pretty much tamper my expectations for the next year, and just come back the following season, building my team the way that I knew that I needed to, and try to make a push, that year. And just so happens the year that I missed the off season that year, I made the playoffs anyway, and I didn't make a deep run, but
Yeah.
you can still do it. It's very possible. You have to be dedicated to it.
Yeah, man. And I think that's a huge point for this game overall, is honestly that exactly. I think even if you have a disappointing recruiting haul, at the end of the day, man, it's a video game. And so if you're good on the sticks, and I think Florida State sticks is a prime example of that. If you're good at the game and you work to get better at your concepts, your play calling, getting your turnovers down, that all matters more than the guys that you bring in. Truly, at the end of the day, like we've seen guys win championships in this league with Kansas, with Nebraska. Bobby made two national championships with North Carolina State, and so at the end of the day, dude, it does come down to stick skills, and honestly, like to take it back to the coach of the year stuff, like that's a lot of what the coach of the year stuff is who's playing the best on the sticks, not just with the best team, but just who's playing the best in game on a week to week basis. And that matters more than anything, man, truly.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Um, on that note, we're going to move on to the next segment, which is the turnaround coach of the year, and we have some of the same coaches as Newcomer with Louisville, and the reason that he's here is because of that first loss to Michigan. That was the first broadcast game that we done,
Yeah.
and if you remember right, man, we were blown away by how one-sided that game was and how
Yeah,
out
man.
of his element Louisville looked. And I mean, I've probably said it, 6 or 7 times in recap shows already. I am extremely impressed with the way that he's turned that season around from week zero. Um, and I think that he definitely deserves number one there. Cade started 0-3 in user games. And then he came back with big wins against Georgia and Oklahoma. Uh, SMU's another one, very similar. Started 0-2 in user games. And then he beat our resident bandwagon with with
I
Virginia
love
Tech.
it, man. I love
So
it. Hokie fan. Amazing.
and whenever I'd done the week 11 recap here, I'm my biggest critic. I would have never put myself on this list. I don't think that I deserve to be here at all, especially the way that I ended this season. A 6-6 team just to me does not scream turnaround. Uh, so if you have anybody else that you would like to put there, I am all ears,
Man,
man.
I'll say this too, man. The SEC is a gauntlet. And so I will say, like, I would keep you on there because you've played at Auburn, you've played Ole Miss, you played at Texas, played Georgia, played Oklahoma, played at Florida State. You could combine the entire all five users in the Big 12, their schedule, they wouldn't have as many big user games as you played in one season. And so I do think like with you and Cade, that's a huge deal, man. And I think you and Cade both definitely deserve to be on there. I think what Cade's done too is huge. Cade, I think he started what like 1-2 just in the game overall, 0-3 in user games, and then huge wins against Georgia and Oklahoma. But man, I totally agree with you. I think what Louisville's done, we were concerned after that first game. I know we exchanged a couple messages like, oh man, like I hope Louisville can get it back on track, see what he has in the bag. And then comes out, beats Cade, beats Ole Miss, takes down Sticks, which that was, I think, the upset of the entire year. I do think that changed the path of that Florida State team for the rest of the year. But for me, man, I think that's the upset of the year. So I think for this, I think Louisville is the clear cut number one. Responding after that Michigan loss and taking down some of the users that he has, dude. Um, it's a huge deal. It's a team to watch heading into the conference title week and playoff.
Absolutely, I fully agree. Um, I like him at number one there.
Yeah,
That's
totally agree, man.
I don't think there's a bigger turnaround that you could say happened with the type of loss that he endured in that week zero game,
Yeah.
compared to making it into the playoffs, conference championship. I think that's an incredible story. That's something that movies are written on, man.
Yeah, man. Totally agree. Totally agree.
And then that leads us to the final award, the biggest, most prestigious. I think the one that needs to be recognized more than any other is the Coach of the Year. The in-game award system, I think, does an absolutely horrible job at awarding Coach of the Year. Um,
Yeah.
and we always want to award users over computers, right? So, uh, at some point, if this continues to be a broken system like it was last year, you're gonna get something like Jacksonville State having a Coach of the Year just because they made the
Yeah.
playoffs. Whereas you have teams like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan,
Mhm.
you know, and I think I may have rubbed Mr. Play to win the game kind of the wrong way the last time that I talked about this because I said
Oh
that it's
no,
yeah, he's so
I don't know.
look. Let me read this.
I love it, dude.
He actually sent me a message, and I didn't fully understand what the issue was until I listened back to what I had said, and it was something along the lines of it's hard to be bad at Ohio State, and it was in no way, shape, or form a shot at him. Um, I'm always somebody that supports him as much as I possibly can. I think he's an outstanding user, and him having Ohio State just makes him even more dangerous. Um, so he said something along the lines of it's a big text message. He said I want to start by saying I'm not motivated by this and definitely not upset. But when you talk to Bobby in week 0, he named the top users with both commissions, which is definitely warranted. He named Reese, who he battled with all last year, also which is understood. He then said there were a couple he was missing, so I said to myself, maybe I'm just one that that slipped his mind. I then heard
Yeah.
when he got on after our game, he clarified why I wasn't mentioned in his top players, because he just thought my team was good is the reason I was winning. LOL. Again, it's not motivation, but I did pay attention to that and look forward to more battles. I've been in leagues since online leagues were a thing, and I've won over 50 Super Bowls and championships while age has caught up on me. Don't take the old guy for granted. I'm still decent. Bobby is a heck of a young player, and it's a lot of solid guys who can win it all in any season here. Naming names is always tough, and I agree with Bobby. It starts with the commissioners and then can go in any direction. Keep on doing what you're doing, man. It really adds to the league and helps the grind. That is the biggest message that I've ever gotten from him.
Dude, I love it. I
and,
love that,
and I
man.
was like, all right, what did I say? so
I love it,
and
dude.
and I went
I,
back and I listened to the show and I realized that it was with this, and I want to say that that is in no way, shape, or form taken away from the job that he has done at Ohio State. Um, I just think that it is slightly more impressive to have the type of season that Michigan has had with Michigan than it is with Ohio State.
Man, I don't think you're wrong at all. And so I'll say this, that message, that's amazing. Because I will say, Mr. Play to win the game, dude. If for guys that are new this year, he won a national championship in this league in 25 with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Um, he's legit, man. And like he said, you can tell, like, and me and Sticks, like I said a little bit before, man, like we've been in these leagues a long time. We used to run Madden leagues, be in Madden leagues. You can tell he knows what he's doing. He's a legit user. The reason I love how he plays and the way that he plays, he demands respect, man. He's not here to come and talk shit in game channels. He's not here for any toxicity. He wants a clean, positive space, and one that is also clean and positive on the game or on the game field. And he plays that way, dude. And he's a good guy. But I'll say this if that ain't motivation, I don't know what is. Because I'm telling you, he remembered that when he played Notre Dame, and I guarantee you he did. And I love that, man. I think at the end of the day, that's one of the things that separates him. But I say all that to say, so much respect for him. I do tend to agree with you in this category for Coach of the Year, though. I think with what Michigan's done as an 89 overall team compared to a 94 overall team for this specific category, I think coach of the year award, it would go to Michigan. I'll say this though too, with what Ohio State's done, how he's played, his point differential is insane, dude. Like even with the Michigan season that they've had, Ohio State has at least, let me see here. Yeah, so his average margin of victory is 30.3. Michigan's is 20.8. So Ohio State has been smacking people consistently. I would lean Michigan on this category. I do think, though, the travesty of this dynasty this season, and one thing that makes me sick to my stomach, when we added Notre Dame to the Big Ten, we did not realize that it reset protected rivalries. So we just got cheated out of the big game, Ohio State versus Michigan to end the season. It makes me sick to my stomach, and I truly think that would have decided this category. So shit, man, we may have to do a co-coach of the year, something. We might have to get creative here.
I fully agree with that. But Bone, we also might see that game in the playoffs.
Yes, I think we will, man. I think we very well could. I think with how this plays out, especially if it's, let me see, if we have, um, let me look at the playoff bracket real quick. I've got it right here. Yes. So if Ohio State wins, he should be at number one. We could see it as a national championship, man. Like that truly
Yes,
could be a national championship preview. That would be
absolutely.
something.
And dude, in that instance, if that is your national championship,
Oh man.
I mean, you've kind of got to award it to both guys, right?
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
could go
that's
co-MVPs, man. I'm not above it.
yeah, yep, absolutely, man.
I love it.
Yeah, this is going to be a long couple weeks right here.
Yeah.
Narrowing down these awards and trying to figure out who's deserving more than the others. There's a lot of talent in this league on the sticks and on the virtual field. Um,
Yeah.
so it's going to be tough, Bone. We've got our work cut out for us for sure.
We do, man. It's going to be a busy couple weeks. We've got the conference title week. We've got playoffs coming up. Guys are going to start prepping for the portal. I'll just say, man, enjoy the ride because this playoff is going to be a blast. Even if you guys are out of the playoffs, I think start prepping for the portal. Start looking at rosters of teams that didn't perform well, guys that have years remaining. Start prepping for the portal and for the offseason. And I'm telling you, man, as you know, we'll be here. It'll be here before we know it. And it's gonna fly by. Like we'll look up in probably 10 days and shit, dude, we'll be kicking off season two. So enjoy the ride. This is the best part of the season.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. The only thing, Bone, that that's a little bit of a bummer for me personally. Um, I'm probably gonna be on vacation throughout the whole playoffs.
Oh, dude, I'll say this though, man. You can prep for the portal from afar. You know what I mean? Prep
Yeah,
the portal strategy, be ready to rock. We'll be good, dude. We'll be
as
good.
as
We'll
far
take
as
over.
as far as recap shows though, so because I,
Yeah,
I I wanted to do the award show so badly, right? And just depending on when the natty falls, I don't know that I'll be able to do it. It might fall all on your shoulders, man.
dude, we'll get it done, man. I'll hit up sticks and we'll get back to our. We used to not to get too off track, man, but when we used to do like team reveals, we'd go on like Facebook Live way back in the day. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like the only shit we could do. So I'll tell sticks we got to get back on the mic and we'll do a live show for the first time probably since, gosh, dude, before COVID.
Oh
Damn, that's crazy
man,
to say.
yeah,
Crazy
yeah.
to say. We'll get it done, dude. I'm telling you, we'll take over. We'll make you proud, and it's gonna be a hell of a time, man. And I'll say this: if we both get knocked out of the playoff, it'll make it easier for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been one of the blessings of having a 6-6 season that you're not really taking very seriously. You don't have to worry, man.
I feel
You
that,
can
dude.
just
I
you
feel
can
that.
just focus on doing the media side of it, and I told you before the season started that if ever it gets to the point where I feel like it's a little bit too much, that focus on playing the game and doing this, that
Yeah.
I would prefer to do this and step back from playing. Um, so having that type of season, knowing that I don't have to prep for the playoffs and I can just do stuff like this, it's just kind of like a blessing in disguise.
Dude, it's nice. I'll say this, man. It's a well-earned vacation, brother. No doubt about it.
Absolutely, man.
No doubt, man.
Absolutely.
Amazing, dude. And this was incredible, man. I think award show wise, like we'll definitely do something and we can even plan it for when you get back. Even if it's like preseason going into season two, it'd be cool to do it fully after the season. So we'll link up and we'll get that locked down and it'll be dope either way, man, without a doubt.
For sure, man. I appreciate you joining me tonight to
Yeah,
go
dude.
over all of this stuff, man. 2.5 hours. This is our longest show yet.
Man,
Hopefully these
we did a
guys
Rogan
enjoy it.
podcast, bro.
Yes, yes, yes. We should have had Theo stop by and
A
give his
hundred
takes.
percent, man. 100%. We need a young Jamie with us next time, dude.
Yes, yes, man.
Incredible. I had a blast though, man. It was a blast. It really was.
Absolutely. It's always fun talking ball with another ball knower. Um,
Yeah.
it's amazing, man. And this league being what it is, and seeing the direction that the media side's taken and all of these new
Oh
wrinkles that
man.
we're putting in, even with the sports book side, hopefully guys start to utilize that a little bit more and we can get some type of incentive with that. Speaking of, while I have you here,
Mm. Yeah,
do you want to incentivize some of these awards in some way, shape, or form for the winning users? Whether that be in the form of one upgrade for any player or the winning player if they're returning. Um, is that anything at all that you would like to explore?
man, I think so. I know me and Sticks have talked about it. Um, I would love to, and honestly, Ed, I think it works perfect timing wise. I think if we do this right before we go into season two, as soon as we hit week 0 of season two, or even that preseason week, it then allows us, once those true freshmen are on the roster next year, we can edit those ratings, and those become the first batch of guys that we can edit ratings for. So, like for example, let's say Ohio State wins Coach of the Year, and he gets a +1 to any true freshman on his recruiting class. And we could make it stackable. So that way, if you have a hell of a season and you win Coach of the Year, you win Quarterback of the Year, and then two or three more, you can stack that. And so you could maybe even get up to like a +2 or 3. And so I think it would incentivize guys to not just like perform to the highest level. I think guys are already going to do that, but it'll make guys like want to tune into this. They'll want to keep track of the awards race. They'll want to see where they are. And I think incentivizing it really just emphasizes that, dude. So I think we definitely will. And it'll probably be in the same form how we've done game of the week stuff, but make it stackable so that you guys, if you win a couple, you get the well-deserved +2 or 3.
Absolutely. So no physicals, just
I'd say not. I know, man. The physical stuff gets dangerous because the minute you allow it, man, expect because we did that once in our Madden leagues. We opened it up one year as like a test run. Holy shit, dude!
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Everybody wants
crazy.
speed.
Yeah, you get because I'm telling you, the only physical, as soon as you open physicals, you're essentially just open speed. And
Yeah.
once you have open speed, dude, that year, it was brutal. I think that was the year, it was maybe Madden 17, the year Le'Veon Bell was just insane on that game.
Mm.
Um, dangerous stuff, dude.
Yeah. You
So
might as well just
I
turn
would
this
say
threshold
non-physical.
off. yeah.
Yeah, man, that's
Yeah.
exactly it, dude.
Yeah. Well, Bone, I certainly appreciate it again, man. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
man.
ahead and wrap this up. I'm gonna try to publish this tonight.
Yes,
If
sir.
not, then first thing in the morning, I'll get it up on our platforms, and hopefully you guys that are listening enjoyed all this, and tune in next time, man.
Yeah, man, we appreciate all you guys, and luckily, Ed, we'll have a full 2-day advance for conference championship week and just a couple games playoff week 1. So you'll get a well-deserved break, dude. I'm telling you, man, the stuff you're doing, like I know Mr. Play to Win the Games commented on it a few different times on the YouTube videos. I mean, it's incredible, dude. And like what he said, like it adds lives to the league, truly. It extends the life of the league, but it also just makes the day-to-day in this thing so much more fun, dude. So we appreciate you, man, and I can't tell you thank you enough for the time that you're putting into this, man, because it really is something special, brother.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah,
If the recognition wasn't there, I don't think that it would be quite as fun. If guys weren't really
yeah,
participating in it, they weren't talking about it. Mr. Play to Win the Game comments on almost every video that we publish.
yeah,
Uh, and all the guys that just a simple reaction to the post in itself. You know, um, I look at all the views that we get, which by the way,
yeah, man.
we haven't we got 5 listens on the podcast for the first episode and 0 for the second one. Um, so if that's something that guys aren't really interested in, then I might
Mhm.
not continue to carry it. But it's not a very difficult thing to publish there, so I might continue to do it anyway. Because there's a lot of times that um, I'm at work and I'm a little bit too busy with my hands. I might be full of grease or something like that, and I
Yeah,
can't watch it, but I want to listen back to it and just to refresh my memory on some of the things that happen in the league. It's one of the ways that I stay so immersed in it.
for sure.
With just a repetition. Although I hate the sound of my voice, so I hate listening to myself talk.
I feel that, dude. I messaged you that same thing. I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah,
this is
it's
tough, dude.
it's terrible. It's absolutely
Yeah, man.
terrible. and especially whenever you got guys like Eddie that, during live broadcasts, he'll sit there and kind of mock my accent a little bit. Uh,
I love it, man.
but man, I certainly appreciate everybody that tunes in and everybody that likes the videos, comments, reacts to them in the Discord. Keeps the conversation going, and hopefully this thing just continues to grow.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. I couldn't have said it any better myself, man.
All right, Bone. I appreciate it, man. I think this is gonna wrap it
Yeah.
up here.
Yes, sir, dude. And it's perfect, man. Right when we hit 230, we made it 2.5. That's it. We're good. We're
Right.
good. I love it, man.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well, man. Get some rest.
Absolutely. Me too.
Peace.
Later.